Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Conflict Radio. Today is December 1st, 2024. It is Sunday morning here, and I'm getting this video ready for you guys. We're going to continue on with the best of season one for the entire month of December. I hope you guys are okay with that. We are going to have a couple more shows in season two, and then we're going to wrap it up for the holiday. But we will continue to do this. I hope you guys are enjoying this. A lot of these have been on the members only section, so they're old, I get it, but they're good little bedtime stories, and it's fun, right? Like, why not listen to some older shows and check out some of these older shows? So we got two of them today. We're going to do episode 14, Roswell, the Ultimate Cold Case Closed, with Tom Carey. We're going to talk to him about Roswell, and then we're also going to do episode 17, UFOs, Aliens, the Bradshaw Ranch, and Remote Viewing with Tom Dongo. I hope you guys enjoy this show. There was a section. If you're listening to the video, maybe somebody can put the time down in the comments below, where Tom Dongo with the Bradshaw Ranch interview, he started to talk about the location of the UFO base near Sedona, Arizona, that he lives near, and you can immediately tell somebody literally came into our conversation to listen to see if he was going to give us a location. He didn't give us a location, and they left, but you could clearly hear when somebody came in and joined the call and was eavesdropping on our conversation. This was actually a phone conversation that I had recorded over Google Voice, and it's interesting the way you can definitely notice somebody picked in and picked up on the conversation. So anyway, episode 14 and episode 17. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, had a great Thanksgiving weekend, and we're gonna get ready to get started with a new week. I guess a week ahead, a work week ahead. It's we're getting close to Christmas. It's a few weeks away. I hope you guys are enjoying these shows. Enjoy these two episodes, and we'll talk to you tomorrow with some more. Good day. You're listening to Conflict Radio on the Conflict Radio Network. Greetings, and welcome to Conflict Radio. Today's guest is Tom Carey. Tom has a BS degree in Business Administration from Temple University, a master's degree in anthropology from California State University, and he also received a fellowship to pursue a PhD in anthropology at the University of Toronto. Tom became interested in UFOs while in high school and rekindled that interest in 1986 when he became the MUFON State Section Director for Southeastern Pennsylvania. Since 1991, Tom's research has focused solely on the Roswell Incident that occurred near the town of Roswell, New Mexico in July of 1947. Tom has appeared as a guest on a number of radio station and television shows, including Coast to Coast AM and Larry King Live, concerning the Roswell Incident, as well as appearing in several filmed documentaries. His latest books, Roswell, the Chronological Pictorial, and his new book, released, Roswell, the Ultimate Cold Case Closed. Now, we're going to talk to him about Roswell, but I am going to ask him, I guess as we get towards the end of the interview, if he's heard anything about the Brazil crash. From what I hear, what happened in Brazil, I guess we talked about this on the show before, there was an incident that perhaps started near Roswell, and there was a chase and an air fight, and resulted in a crash in Brazil in May. So we'll see if he's heard anything about that. Today is July 23rd, 2020, and we'll just get right to it and be right back with Tom Carey right after this. And welcome back to Conflict Radio. We're with Tom Carey. His latest two books, Roswell, the Chronological Pictorial, I hope I said that right, and Roswell, Ultimate Cold Case Closed. Tom, you there?
I am here.
How are you doing today?
I am doing well, Michael. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Now, you want to tell us about your latest two books?
Yes, we've Don Schmidt and I have written actually three books in the last year and a half. The first one, which came out last year, that'd be 2019, was called UFO Secrets Inside Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That was Area 51 before there was an Area 51, where all the really foreign technology went. And that came out last year. And this year we had two more books come out. The first one was it was something new for us, something different, let's say, called Roswell, the Chronological Pictorial. It's a coffee table book, and it features the timeline, the complete timeline of the Roswell case from the day of the crash until the present, all the way up to the present. What has transpired regarding the Roswell crash? And there's over 400 over 400 photos supporting the timeline, and most of them never seen before. They're in color. When we have color photos, and others are in black and white. So it's 200, I think it's like 258 pages, coffee table, over 400 photos, and you have the complete timeline, day by day, sometimes minute by minute, month by month, year by year, all the way up to the present. And it's doing very well, Michael. And the people who have commented back to us, they are just amazed. It's just great. Well, one fellow said it's the best book he ever read. And it should really be the companion for every Roswell book ever written, including our own. So that's came out earlier this year in March. And we have another book that came out in, we're in July, so it came out in May, called Roswell, The Ultimate Cold Case Closed. And that title more or less gives it away, because we are basically stopping or stepping back from our proactive, and I emphasize that, proactive investigation, because everybody's dead. All the primary witnesses, first-hand witnesses, are gone. We don't know of one there is one still alive, but he's like 94 years old in a nursing home with Alzheimer's. That's the only one I know that's still alive, but everybody else, they're dead. There may be others out there that were first-hand witnesses, but that we don't know about because we never interviewed them. So to give you another, put this further into perspective, this week we tried to contact a living descendant, son or a daughter of a officer who was at Roswell that we never could locate, but he had a name that we recognized, and so we found his daughter. We found his daughter, and we just missed her. She died a few weeks ago at age 81. Now, this is the primary witness's daughter, age 81, and she just passed away. So that's what we're up against now. The offspring, the sons and daughters of the first-handers, are now passing away themselves.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it was 73 years ago this month that it happened. So if we had any, like, even if they were 1 year old at the time of the crash, that would make them 74 years old today.
exactly,
Now, there is
exactly.
a possibility that more evidence, I suppose, could come to light. I guess it's possible a lot of the ranchers and people could have parts of the craft still in their home or buried in their attic that maybe even their grandkids will stumble on one day.
Well, that's our hope, Michael, because normally we know from the ranchers out there that they had the air base south of town, south of Roswell, 7 miles south of Roswell, And they had crashes off and on of aircraft. And the thing was that the ranchers would always get to the crash site first. If it crashed out in the desert, the ranchers would get there first, and all their family members would go out there as well to see if they could help and see what happened and maybe help somebody. But they would always take souvenirs, pieces of the wreckage. That's what we were told by the ranchers themselves. And so the Roswell crash was no different. The ranchers got there first, and we know from talk, word of mouth, that the ranchers certainly pocketed pieces of the ship. And unfortunately, and we were even given names. Rancher so and so has a piece, or his grandson has a piece. But so far they haven't. We've contacted them and they say, "Oh no, we don't have a piece." So nobody's come forward yet.
Not a single person has come forward with a piece at all.
Correct. So that's the one thing on the case that we are missing. We have interviewed approximately 600 or more witnesses, all of whom have a little piece of the story of the crash of an extraterrestrial craft. Nobody has said there was a balloon of these 600 or more. So.
Well, I heard that the debris field was about 2 football fields large.
At least.
I mean, it's hard to imagine a weather balloon causing that type of debris field.
Exactly. A weather balloon, or any balloon, it goes up in the air, it expands and expands until it bursts, and then it just falls down to Earth. And it doesn't crash. It just flops on the ground and stays basically intact, punctured, of course, but it doesn't shred all over the place like the debris field site for Roswell was described to us by several people who were there, that it was almost a mile long by a couple 100 feet wide, filled with pieces of wreckage that blanketed. It was a sheep pasture. The sheep pasture was blanketed with all this wreckage, a lot of pieces of wreckage. And our hope is, we know not only some ranchers had pieces, but the military, the GIs who went out there to clean up that stuff, we know that some of those had pocketed a piece as well. And we've heard over the years from some people, the closest we got to getting a piece was that a few of them said, "Oh, we had a piece in our house. It was on the television. We kept it on the television for years, but it disappeared over the years, and it always disappears." And another woman in Florida, a couple of years ago, she contacted MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, that she believed she had a piece of, she called it flying saucer wreckage from Roswell, because it was kept on, her father had it, and he would always ask her, "Do you know what this is?" And she said, "I don't know what that is." It's like a little piece of metal, just a piece of metal that you couldn't do anything with, it wouldn't bend. But she never paid attention to it. But he would, every now and then, do you know what this is? And when he finally passed away, she had heard about Roswell, and she knew that he had been at Roswell. And she put 2 and 2 together, and she said, "Oh my God, this is a piece of that ship that crashed." So we contacted her, and MUFON had already contacted her as well, but she wouldn't give it up. She says, "I'm going to write a book about this," and they always say, "I'm going to write a book about this," and of course she never did. But we found out later that she went to California and took it with her and took the piece with her, and she had I don't know, a mystic, a mind reader, or somebody look at it. And then, I mean, you don't want a mind reader, to what's a mind reader going to do,
Yeah.
You want to take it to an analyst, but she just won't give it up. And so
Did she say what the mind reader said about it?
no. As soon as we heard that she took it to, I don't know if it was a soothsayer, a mind reader, a mystic, something. What is she doing? And so at that point we figured, oh, I don't know what's going on here, but we'll never get what we want from her, because she wouldn't give it up. And I didn't want to fly down to Florida to see it.
Now I was watching some documentaries on this last night, and in one of them it says that there were two ranchers that discovered the wreckage. That they never actually saw the crash. They just happened to stumble upon the wreckage, and then they threw some of it in their pickup, as much as they get in the pickup, and then they drove to Roswell to meet with the sheriff, I guess, or the police chief or whatever.
That's how the Roswell story started.
So did people actually witness the crash? Did they see the crash?
No, nobody saw the crash because it happened about 11:30 at night during a severe thunder and lightning storm out in the desert, in the central high desert of New Mexico. It's their monsoon season. And so this would be the night of July the 2nd, 1947. We've pinned it down to the night of July 2nd, 1947. Big thunder and lightning storm going on late at night. And this woman, and we feature her in our chronological pictorial book with picture of her. Anything. She heard this between the thunderclaps. She heard something circling over her house. She heard an engine, something, some strange noise of a vehicle in the air circling over her house, and then it went away, and then she heard a muffled explosion. She heard an explosion. Now, other ranchers also reported hearing a muffled explosion between the thunderclaps that night. So the next morning, a rancher by the name of Mac Brazel, who was foreman of the J.B. Foster Sheep Ranch, 65 miles northwest of Roswell, 75 miles northwest, something like that. So he's out checking his sheep and the pastures and the fence. And, after a big thunderstorm, you got to check things out. So he went out there with a rancher boy from the neighboring ranch by the name of D. Proctor. So it was the two of them. And they came across this field that we just described a few minutes ago of this strange wreckage covering this Golondrina sheep pasture. Little pieces of strange metal. And so he also he noticed the sheep wouldn't go near this pasture anymore. Because they had to go through this pasture to go to the water tower tank or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So he wanted somebody to clean that up because what's all this stuff on my ranch here? It's ruined. My sheep won't cross it. So he takes a couple pieces, puts them in two cardboard boxes. This is on July 2nd. I'm sorry, this is now July 3rd. So the next day is July 4th, and so it's the 4th of July celebration. He took a couple pieces to the celebration, passed them around, asking for people to give him an opinion. What is this stuff from? And they started saying, well, this could be one of those flying saucer things that crashed. Because flying saucers were only 2 weeks old at that point.
Because they were spotted in Mount Rainier 9 days before, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. So it's a new story, and so they may, maybe it's one of those flying saucer things. So Mac puts a couple pieces in boxes, and on the 6th of July, this is now Sunday. I think the July 3rd was a Wednesday, and so they have the 4th of July. Then the 5th was a Saturday, and on Saturday he notices some birds of prey off a mile or a couple miles away. They're circling. He's oh my God, what are they? Something's dead over there, about 2 miles away. So Dee Proctor's with him again, because Dee was staying with him for a week or so. And they ride over, and lo and behold, they find these two little beings about 3.5 to 4 feet tall, with large heads and slanted eyes, and they were both dead. And they really stunk. They really smelled. So now he's got the wreckage to contend with, and he's got these two little bodies that he doesn't know what they are on his ranch. So he makes the drive to Roswell the next day on Sunday the 6th. Visits the sheriff's office, Sheriff George Wilcox. Hey, Sheriff, do you know what this stuff is? It's covering my sheep pasture, and a couple dead bodies out there, and somebody's got to get out there and clean that stuff up. So Wilcox, he doesn't believe this story, because Bradshaw says maybe it's one of those flying saucer things. So Wilcox, the phone rings, and it's an announcer from radio station KGFL named Frank. Oh my goodness! Oh, that's terrible. I just forgot his last name. Frank Joyce, announcer for. That's what happens when you get old. Radio announcer for KGFL radio in Roswell, and Wilcox says, "Oh, here." He says, "Here, I got a guy here, Frank. He wants to talk to you. He's got an interesting story here." So he gives the phone to Bradshaw, and Bradshaw tells him the story, and Joyce doesn't believe him either. So Joyce says, to get out of it, he says, "Well, anything that comes from the sky, fell from the sky, is the purview of the Air Force. So why don't you call the base south of town?" So Bradshaw gives the phone back to Wilcox, who calls the base, which was the initial involvement of the military, because he says, "We got a guy here with this story," and the fellow who took the call was a Major Jesse Marcel. So he reports to the commanding officer, William Blanchard, and Blanchard tells him, because Blanchard's thinking, "Oh my God, maybe it's Russian. Maybe the Russians have something that crashed out there." So he says, "Go out, follow the rancher out to his ranch, and take another officer with you." So Marcel takes the counterintelligence officer, chief counterintelligence officer, Captain Sheridan Cabot, with him, and they go out to the ranch, and they get there late in the day, so they stay overnight, and they go out to the debris field site, which is the site we're talking about, the next day, which is the 7th, July 7th. They spend most of the day out there picking up all this stuff. They took a Jeep. Marcel went out in his personal car, a Buick Roadmaster, and Cabot took a Jeep Carryall. So Marcel packed up the trunk of his Buick, and Cabot packed up the Jeep Carryall, and they went back to to Roswell. It's now the next day, July the 8th. Cavett got there first, and Bradshaw, I keep saying Bradshaw, I mean Marcel, stopped off at his home first to show his wife and his son what he had found. And even at that point, Michael, Marcel believed it was from a flying saucer, because we got that from his son, Jesse Marcel Jr., that his father, when he finally got home there, he believed that even at that point it was from a flying saucer. So that's how the story started, and that's how the military got involved.
Yeah.
And
Now, see, I've heard some stories where people got out there and there were dead aliens, but there was one walking around the site. Did that happen?
yes, that happened on July. Actually, that happened on July the 7th.
So that would have been 5 days later.
No, it happened on. See, Bradshaw comes into town on Sunday the 6th, and they go out to the Bradshaw Ranch that day, and they don't get to the debris field site until the next day, July the 7th. Now, while Marcel and Cavett are out at the debris field site, a call comes into the sheriff's station and to the firehouse. The calls always double tracked. When they called the sheriff's office, they always were piped into the fire station as well, because there were a lot of aircraft crashes and what have you. And likewise, if a call came into the fire station, it also was piped into the sheriff's office. Anyway, while Marcel and Cavett are out looking at the debris field site on the 7th, a group of archaeologists north of town stumble on a third site. You have the debris field site. The second site is where those two bodies were found dead, and the third site is where the ship itself we believe was struck by lightning, and it blew apart. And that's how those two little aliens fell to their death on that site 2 miles east of the debris field. Those two little bodies that Bradshaw found, we believe they were blown out when the ship exploded. But what happened was there was also a part of the ship, perhaps the inner cabin, perhaps an escape pod or something, that withstood the blast and continued on for another 30 miles before it came to ground. And that was just north of Roswell, about 30 miles north of Roswell. And that site had 2 dead aliens and one that was still alive. Now, here's where the story comes, is that this particular site was discovered by a group of archaeologists who were out there already looking for archaeological sites. They came across this downed piece of this inner cabin or whatever it was, and so they went to the nearest town, which was actually a gas station in the north of Roswell, and I forget the name of this little town, but it was really a gas station. And they called it into the sheriff's office and the fire station, and hey, we got a crash out here. We got to crash out here. Get somebody out here. There's dead people, and there's dead little people. And so Marcel and Cavett don't know anything about this site. Bradshaw doesn't know about this site. Bradshaw's already gone back to town, leaving the two officers out in the field, still picking up pieces of wreckage. Bradshaw's already back in Roswell. And so the call goes into the sheriff's office and the firehouse. And the Air Force I'm trying to think now how the Air Force found out about this site on the 7th, and this is before This is before Cavett and Marcel came back to town with all that wreckage. They already knew about this crash site north of town, which convinced them that it wasn't Russian, but it was, as they called back then, interplanetary. It was interplanetary, the wreckage.
Yeah.
They already knew.
So the archaeologists had found the alien walking around with the other two bodies. I mean, they obviously called it in as a crash, but did they try to talk to the alien that was walking around? Like what did they do?
Well, what happened was the uh, the base before the fire company could get out there, and before the military got out there, the base sent somebody to the firehouse. Don't go out there. Don't go out to the crash site. We will handle it. And they also contacted the Roswell city manager to also go to the firehouse and tell them, don't go out to the crash site. Well, one of the firemen, his name was Dan Dwyer, he said, nobody's telling me. I'm going to get out there. So he surreptitiously goes out there on his own with his crew chief. They went out in a tanker truck. This is like a pickup truck with a water tank in the back. They scoot out to the site before the military even got their shoes on, and they arrive at the site. And Dan Dwyer tells this story to his family, and that's who we got the story from. And he says, my eyes were drawn to the two bodies that were on the ground, obviously dead, or they're sticking out of the ship, something like that. When all of a sudden I could see movement out of the corner of my eye. I could see movement, and I looked, and there was a creature, not from this earth, walking around, alive. So you have two dead and one alive. And of course, his family, from whom we got the story, says, well, what did it look like? So he described what it looked like. You know, the standard 3.5 feet tall, big head, large slanted eyes, no nose except two little holes in the front of the face, a little slit for a mouth, long spindly arms and fingers, and long spindly legs, but it's only 3.5 feet tall. And they said, well, did you talk to it, Daddy? Did you talk to it? Yes. We talked to one another. This creature and I, we talked to one another, but we didn't talk to one another like you and I are talking by moving our lips and our tongue and our voice, but we didn't talk like we talk. Well, how did you talk? We talked to one another in our heads. We talked to one another in our heads. And I guess we would call that mental telepathy, right?
Yeah.
Well, what did you talk about? Well, Dan Dwyer said, I was worried about it because, you know, we had a crash here and this thing is walking around, wobbling around. And the creature actually talked to Dan. He said, don't worry about me. My ship has crashed. My ship is destroyed. My comrades are dead, and there's nothing anybody can do. I accept my fate. That was his message to Dan Dwyer. Basically, don't worry about him. He accepts what has happened to him, and that's when the military arrived.
And what date was that? That he spoke to us.
That was the morning of July the 7th.
And the crash happened on the night of the 2nd.
Yes.
So that's 4 or 5 days that alien was just sitting around the crash site. Just, I guess it decided not to take a walk, or.
Well, of course he didn't know where he was. I guess don't know, but he stayed with his ship. We don't know if his comrades died instantly or succumbed later on. We don't know.
Yeah. Did it have any injuries at all?
the two were dead, but the one that was walking around wound up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We know that from a witness who was part of a air school, Air War College school the next year. This would be 1948. The next year, in 1948, he was at the Air War College in Montgomery, Alabama, and they spent a week up at Wright-Patterson, to get instruction on base administration, stuff like that. This class was for officers who were going to be the next generation of Air Force officers to take the Air Force into the next century, and stuff like that. So they went up to Wright-Patterson to train on base administration. But this one day, they didn't have anything scheduled. So they were taken to a hangar there, the infamous hangar 18, but it was really hangar 23. And so there were about 60 of them. They're taken into this hangar. One guy said it was painted all blue inside, and so they're taken into a room, and they're standing around looking at one another. And in comes a guy wheeling a cart, and there's all this strange wreckage on this cart. And they said, "Okay, guys, take a look at this stuff and tell me what you think." Of course, it was the wreckage from Roswell, and they didn't know what it was. They said, "What is this stuff?" Nobody could figure it out. So they told them, they said it's from a crash of a flying saucer in New Mexico the year before. So they said, "Oh my goodness!" And they were some guys were spooked, other guys could care less, and other guys were really amazed at the properties of this wreckage. So they were taken into another room, and there was a big mirror. It was a two-way mirror, the famous two-way mirror, where you could see through to the other side, but whoever or whatever was on the other side, it was just a mirror. Couldn't see through. So they looked through the mirror, and here is this creature. It was a live one that was found at Roswell. Now, I don't know if it was standing or sitting or doing the Macarena. We don't know what it was doing.
Yeah.
And that's what they saw, and they said, "Oh my God!" And our witness said he immediately had a mental connection with it. They didn't talk to one another, but he felt great sympathy for it, and he said he felt its humanity. He said they made a mental connection, and he felt great sympathy, and he saw the human qualities of it rather than the foreign qualities. And that's in 1948. So we heard later that it had perished in some experiment they were doing on it or with it, that it died a couple of years later in some experiment that they were doing. So that's what happened to it.
Oh, that's sad. It's a shame we didn't make a trade with it or something.
Right.
Or let him get back somehow.
Yes. Tell us how to make that ship, So, but that's we believe today that the 5 Roswell cadavers, let's call them, we believe there were 5 of them. We believe that they are being stored at the Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah. That's where we believe that. They were at Wright-Patterson for a number of years, but Wright-Patterson started becoming, when the word got out about Hangar 18, they moved the stuff elsewhere, and we believe that the cadavers were at Area 51 in Nevada for a while, but when that got too hot, they wound up at Dugway in the Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, north of Ogden, Utah.
Yeah, and what about the debris? Where do you think all that stuff's being kept now?
That is a good question. That is a good question. The debris for years was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, right?
Hmm.
That was the original Area 51. That's where all the foreign stuff went. And but when Area 51 in Nevada was built in the mid 50s, it didn't. The stuff was transferred there, but not immediately, because Area 51 in Nevada was built to develop our spy planes, the famous U-2, the U-2 Dragon Lady spy plane that was shot down over Russia in 1960. Was developed at Area 51, and that's why Area 51 was built. And it also developed the SR-71 Blackbird, high-flying spy plane. Also, the B-2 bomber and the F-117 fighter, they were developed there as well. But most people associate Area 51 in Nevada not with the development of our secret aircraft, but with alien technology. That's where flying saucers were worked on, et cetera, and that's where all the foreign technology from off the planet went. That's what it's famous for. Now, the Roswell stuff and all UFO stuff, we believe from somebody who worked at Wright-Patterson. He said all that stuff went to Area 51 in the early 1980s, right? Went to Wright-Patterson I went to Area 51 in the 1980s. How long it was kept there, we don't know. But when Area 51 started becoming famous in the late 80s and thereafter, they started moving the stuff first to what they call Area 52, which is actually the base I talked about, the proving grounds in Utah, and that's where they moved it for a while. All the wreckage we believe now is in private hands, and by private hands I don't mean Aunt Sally and Uncle Harry. I mean the Rand Corporation, Lockheed Martin, the Bigelow Corporation, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, mega places that do have a lot of government contracts, but they're private companies, right? So they're not subject to FOIA requests for this and that regarding Roswell, regarding UFOs. They're not subject to FOIA requests because they're private companies. But that's where we believe all the physical wreckage is, not only for Roswell, but for all UFO physical wreckage.
Yeah,
Stuff.
they say that there's been quite a few crashes. So what makes Roswell so important?
The thing about Roswell that makes it the granddaddy of all UFO cases is it's number one, the case has everything. We're not talking about lights in the sky that dart around, oh boy, look at that light in the sky at nighttime. I did some UFO. I was a MUFON state section director for a couple of years, and those are the only cases I got. There are people who saw lights in the sky at night, and that I can tell you that doesn't further our knowledge, and that doesn't further your interest if that's all I'm investigating. And so Roswell is not that. It's an alleged crash of a physical ship that crashed, came to Earth, crashed, spread wreckage, and allegedly had uh, biological beings on board, four of whom died and one who was still alive. And then there was a government cover-up and threats of death and threats of imprisonment if you talk. It's a mystery that has everything that's left over to us from the 20th century. And the other reason it's the most famous case is that besides that capturing your imagination, which I think it does more than other cases, is that there are so many witnesses. A lot of UFO cases are single witness cases, right? Single witness cases, very problematical. Not to say that they're not true, but the more witnesses, the better. Well, here we have over 600 first and second-hand witnesses to this one event. And it's taken us 30 plus years to track down these 600. It's not that they're coming to us and saying, "Oh, please interview me, please interview me." That's not happening. It's that we have located them, we've dug them out, and we've located them and have interviewed them. Not everyone was happy to see us. A lot weren't. They slammed the door, slammed the phone down, but we have accumulated over 600 first and second-hand witnesses that attest to the extraterrestrial nature of what crashed at Roswell on the evening of July the 2nd, 1947.
Yeah, it's definitely the most researched crash probably in the history of UFO crashes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now,
Well,
let me ask you a question about the autopsy videos that we see circulating on YouTube or whatever. Do you believe that those are real?
no, no. They're the famous alien autopsy. The hoaxer admitted that it was a hoax. You know, I guess it was 1995. That it was called the alien autopsy. We knew right away that was a hoax for several reasons, and the problem is there are too many. With all the technology we have, the computers and all the things that they do for motion pictures, it's too easy now to hoax something that makes it look real. So it's very difficult to really get corroboration, scientific agreement that something is real, because there's so many ways now you can fake it. So that's why we say our holy grail of Roswell is a piece of what we call memory metal. It's that metal that was scattered over Bradshaw Ranch, that you pick it up. It's very thin. It looks like very thin aluminum foil, but it doesn't weigh anything. And you can crumple it up in your hand to it feels like you don't have anything in your hand. And you open up your hand and it just unfurls itself without a crease. Goes back to its original position. You can't cut it, you can't burn it, you can't twist it, you can't permanently deform it, scratch it in any way. And we still don't have anything like that. And that's what we're searching for. It's we call it our holy grail of Roswell that we're searching for. That somebody comes forward with a piece. But as far as these, I don't know what other videos or whatever you're talking about. Other than
the Roswell slides, I guess, as well, right?
Oh, the Roswell slides. We got hooked on that, and everybody's entitled to one mistake in 30 years. But here's what happened on that. We get I received a email from this guy in Chicago that he had some very interesting slides pertaining to Roswell that I would be interested in looking at, but that I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to look at them. So I said, all right. So I signed a non-disclosure agreement because it sounded like it was really important. And what it was was a color slide of a body on a display on a slab of something that looked exactly like what had been described to us about what the aliens looked like at Roswell. It looked exactly like what was described to us. Large head, I described it already. And there was one feature about it that really was the clincher for me, is that Dan Dwyer, the fireman who went out to the crash site on his own with his crew chief and saw the live one and he saw the two dead ones, when his family said, "What did they look like?" He simply said, he answered, "The child of the earth." Now, that doesn't mean anything to me as somebody who's from Philadelphia, city slicker, but a child of the earth in New Mexico is another word for it is either the Jerusalem cricket or a potato bug. It's a land that's like large insect, a land, not as big as a tarantula or anything like that, but it's an insect, but its head reminds people of a newborn baby, because a newborn baby, the bones in its head have not fused together yet, and you have these dark lines on the head of a baby because the bones haven't ossified or fused together. So the head of this Jerusalem cricket or potato bug or child of the earth, as Dan Dwyer referred to it, had the top of its head look like that. And in this slide, this slide of this being that was presented to me, this being had these markings on its head. I said, that's the clincher. Nobody would really know about that one feature about these lines on the head. And this cadaver on the slide had those marks on his head. So for me, that was the clincher. The other thing was, at the foot of this creature was a placard with writing on it. It looked like script or cursive writing on it. We spent 3 years trying to decipher that writing because it would have been key as to what was on that slab. We sent it around to many places that we thought, they do stuff like that, and nobody could decipher anything about the writing. So, and people were clamoring, why don't you release your findings now? What are you hiding? What are you hiding? So, after 3 years, and the other thing was the other slides in this collection that the person had sent me. His story was that his sister found them when they were cleaning out a garage. Somebody had died and they were closing the estate and they were cleaning out the garage, and she came across this box of slides, and she was like into photography, and all these slides that we were shown were obviously taken in the 1940s. In the 1940s, by the clothing that people were wearing and by the automobiles that you could see. These slides are all from the 1940s. And we had it was a Kodak Kodachrome slide. So we had it dated. We took it to the Kodak company, and to cut to the chase, they dated it as 1947. The slide was a 1947 slide. So you got the date, you got this thing looking like one of the Roswell aliens, and we got this slide, this placard that we can't decipher. We tried everything. Nobody could decipher it. So we said, okay, guys, we've gone as far as we can with this. We believe it's one of the Roswell bodies, taken shortly after it was recovered, because it looked like it was not that old. So we set up because we thought this was so important. We had Jaime Maussan set up a Jaime Maussan is a Mexican UFO guy, probably he's worldwide. He's known worldwide, and he happened to be in the right place at the right time when we were doing all of this. So he set up a presentation that we were going to give at the National Auditorium of Mexico. It's in Mexico City. National Auditorium holds 10,000 people because we thought this was an earth-shaking discovery. And so we set it up, then we go down there, and we have 8,000. We have 8,000 people there. 8,000. We had it beamed around the world. It was by I don't know what the thing is. You can beam it on your computer.
Yeah.
And so it was beamed around the world, and so on May the 5th, May the 5th, 2015, we had this big rollout, and we gave presentations and all that sort of stuff. It was a great rollout, and the very next day or the day after, lo and behold, somebody says they've translated this placard, and I'm in disbelief. How we spent 3 years? How can somebody that we don't know of say that they've deciphered this placard? And it turned out it was a mummified body of a 9-year-old boy. It was the mummified body of a 9-year-old boy. And
it just happened to have slides taken of it in 1947.
Yes. And it was taken by a couple. This is the other thing. The couple who took this had this slide collection. The husband was a field geologist in West Texas, and the area of the crash in New Mexico was within his area he was an oil geologist, right? And the area of the crash was within his purview, his area. His wife was an oil company lawyer. She's a lawyer, so we're not talking about farmer Hiccup and his son Hayseed. We're talking about professional people who had these slides. So I'm beside myself. I said, this can't be true. We tried 3 years. We gave it to a half a dozen organizations to try to break this code. And here it is. Somebody says they broke it, and it was not cursive writing. It was just regular print. It was regular print. It said the mummified body of a 9-year-old boy, courtesy of so and so in San Francisco. And I said, this can't be true. Well, it was true. And what had happened was that the owner of the slide and his compadre, they were in a business where they use computers and graphics a lot. And they did something to the placard writing that made it impossible for us or anybody to crack. But it turns out there was more than one slide, and the other slide I never saw, and somehow that slide got out into the public, and somebody was able to decipher it with a program that they downloaded from the internet. So we got caught. But the thing was, Michael, given the information we had at the time, that's the only conclusion I could come to, because everything fell into place. The only thing we didn't have is we did not have the writing deciphered on that placard. And it was only by chance that somebody got a hold of it by mistake and was able to decipher it. And
well, it definitely made for interesting stories.
Huh?
It definitely made for interesting stories.
Yeah, it's not any hoax that we perpetrated on, unlike the alien autopsy, which they knew they were perpetrating a hoax. We believe we were giving the real, 3 years of analysis led us to conclude that it was one of given the age of the slide, given what it looked like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We gave our best judgment that we believed it was one of the Roswell uh, bodies, and
All
but it
right.
turned out that through a mistake, if somebody got a hold of another slide that we never saw, and was able to quickly decipher, clear up that placard that we were not able to.
Yeah. So moving on from that, I want to ask you about the diseases that have been reported that the locals had down there. That there's rumors of a chemical weapons conspiracy. Could you know about that?
That's new to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I just heard about. I was, I guess, researching Roswell last night and heard something about the local people down there were catching diseases, and
Well,
there were
the,
rumors that it was some kind of they were doing some chemical testing on the people of that area, and that.
uh, we often speculated. I don't know about what you're talking about, but over the years we speculated. It seemed to us that there were an inordinate number of people in Roswell dying of cancer, and we concluded that if that was true, it was because the Roswell base had nuclear weapons. That was the only nuclear weaponized outfit in the world at the time, and the base closed in 1967. So from say the end of World War II until 1967, the base had nuclear weapons. So perhaps that was the reason people had higher incidences of cancer than perhaps the normal number. So that's the only thing that we know. The other thing was that one of the witnesses who was at Roswell, this was one of the airmen. His name was Earl Fulford. He was an excellent witness. He was out at the crash site picking up he was one of the airmen out at the crash site on his hands and knees picking up the wreckage. But he told me that along near the base, near the outer base, the outer fence of the old base, there was a long trench where a lot of hazardous hazmat or hazardous material was buried from the 1946 Bikini Atoll Operation Crossroads, where they detonated two atomic bombs on this little island of Bikini I guess it's the Marianas or something like that, in the Pacific. But they had a lot of hazardous material, and that was all buried in a trench on the outer fence of the Roswell base. And the townsfolk, I told the story, but they don't see. I tried to alert them about that, but they don't seem to care about it. But that's what was told to me, that there's a trench there with a lot of hazardous material that was buried after the 1946 Operation Crossroads Bikini Atoll atom bomb tests in the Pacific. So maybe that's has something to do with it. But I've mentioned it several times when I was down there, but nobody seems bothered by it. And
Yeah. So out of all the 600 plus people witnesses you talked to, who do you think are the most important ones?
yeah, we can't say there's one most important because they all play a part. But early on, when we were, this is just before I joined the team of Kevin Randall and Don Schmidt. They had a list of names this is when most of the participants were still alive. early 90s, like 1990. And they went down to Roswell thinking that they were going to debunk the case fairly quickly. They went down there with no preconceptions of whether it was a crash of an interplanetary craft or not. But they thought, oh well, we'll just we'll go down there and we'll get right to it and it won't be anything. Well, they interviewed this one fellow they interviewed was the old provost marshal on the base in 1947. His name was Edwin Easley. He was a major then. He retired as a lieutenant colonel. They interviewed Easley in 1990, 1991. And so they're still fishing around to find out if this case was true or not. So Kevin Randle interviews Edwin Easley over the telephone. And every question that Kevin asked him, Easley responded, I can't tell you, I'm sworn to secrecy. Every question, I'm sworn to secrecy. So I know myself, at some point I would have given up, because his answer to every question was, I can't tell you, I'm sworn to secrecy. So Kevin, to his credit, he says, well, can you at least tell me if we're on the right track? And so Easley says, well, what do you mean by that? Well, are we on the right track if we're going down the road that it was a crash of a UFO? And Easley pauses for a second. He says, well, let me tell you this. You're not going down the wrong track. So there, right then, early on, you had a key witness who was in charge of all the MPs guarding the crash sites, et cetera, et cetera. We know later he was on the site, the crash sites, telling Kevin Randle, you're on the right track if you think it was a crash of a UFO. Later on his deathbed in Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas, the same hospital that Kennedy was taken after he was shot in 1963. But in 1991, Edwin Easley's on his deathbed there. So his family gathered around. His granddaughter comes in with a copy of Randall and Schmidt's book, UFO Crash at Roswell. So his granddaughter comes in and he says, Granddad, and she holds up the book in front of him, and he goes, oh, the creatures. That's all he said was, oh, the creatures. So not only was there now wreckage, there were also creatures aboard. So he is one of the key witnesses, at least in my book, of the whole case, because he verified that it was an extraterrestrial ship that had crashed and that there were beings aboard. So
putting all this together, your book, The Ultimate Cold Case Closed, what are your final conclusions pretty much on all of your years of research?
Well, my final conclusions, of course, we in this book, we treat it as almost like a legal case. That it was a crash of a UFO, a flying saucer, we believe is not only warranted by the preponderance of the evidence, which is what the legal standard is. It's in non-criminal cases, it's the preponderance of evidence, but it's also beyond a reasonable doubt. We believe that the evidence is so great that it's beyond a reasonable doubt. There's no other innocent explanation for all the witness testimony. So beyond a reasonable doubt, we believe that it was a crash of a UFO with 5 beings aboard, 4 of whom expired or were killed, and 1 that was still alive at the time of its recovery. That the government covered it up, it's still covered up, and we still hope that someone will come forth with a piece of physical evidence. And but there's no doubt, at least in my mind, beyond a reasonable doubt.
All right, and I want to ask you about Building 84 and how they say that there are ghosts of the aliens that haunt that building. I guess that's the building at the at the airfield where the bodies were first taken.
Ghosts?
Yeah, that's. I guess this one guy is saying that ghosts of the aliens that died at Roswell haunt this building.
I'm sorry, that's a new one on me. We're not coming at this case from the ghost angle.
Yeah. I was just curious if you had heard about it.
I've never heard that. I've never heard that. I know that they have these shows on television where the ghost hunters, and then they go to all these buildings and they say, "Oh, did you feel that cold spot?" Or they have this little meter that says, "Oh, it's 1, 2, 3," and I'm thinking, what are they doing? So no, we have not looked at that angle. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just curious about it. So, I guess in wrapping this up, where do we go from here?
That's a good question, Michael. Our proactive, meaning that we're out there every day shaking the tree for new witnesses, our proactive involvement is we are now stepping back from that. If we get wind of something new, a new witness, or a word of physical evidence, something new comes across our desk, we will of course investigate. But because all of the people who were there in Roswell in 1947 that we were aware of are all dead, except one who's in a nursing home in Roswell. He's 94 with Alzheimer's. That's the only one we know that's still alive. But everybody else is dead of a first-hand nature, and now their children are passing on. So it's time, at least for us, to step back, because the field has become barren. The field has become barren for new witness testimony. And but like I said, anything that comes along, we will certainly investigate. But that's why we have stepped back, because they're all dead, basically. And the government has never been a help to us. We don't expect them to help. They're still stuck on the Project Mogul thing for the wreckage and the dime store crash dummies. They say were the bodies that people were looking at. Crazy, absolutely crazy. So, but the thing is that, Michael, when we expect something like we'll get somebody will say, "Oh boy, you want to talk to this witness? Boy, they really got the goods on it," and they turn out to have nothing. On the other hand, you'll just tangentially find somebody and that you don't expect anything from, and they have something really interesting to say. So we never know what to expect. But the daily getting up in the morning and well, who am I going to call today? I'm going to call this person on this big list. It's we have stepped back from that.
All right. So
I might mention that you can buy any of our books at Barnes and Noble or Amazon online, Barnes and Noble online, iTunes. You can also go to our website, www.roswellinvestigator.com. That's www.roswellinvestigator.com, and purchase any of our books there as well.
Yeah, and all the links will be in the description of this podcast. Just look down in the description, and all the links will be there. And you'll also be able to go to conflictradio.net and hit the guest tab where you'll be able to find Tom Carey's page, and all of the links to his stuff will be there as well. I wanted to ask you one more question. Have you heard about this crash in Brazil that just happened?
No. Is
Okay.
this recent?
Yeah, this I guess it just happened in the beginning of June. There's a crash in Brazil that just happened. And from
Oh,
what I'm hearing is that there was a chase and a firefight, an aerial battle, I guess, that took place, but it started in Roswell, and it went all the way down to Brazil, where the UFO finally crashed.
oh, is this online? Can I find it online?
Yeah, I guess so. I just search up Brazil UFO crash. I mean that's all I do. There's a bunch of videos online. I guess the Brazilian military was there, and they took over the scene right away. It almost sounds exactly like Roswell as far as the military
I,
taking over. But
I will check that out. I've not heard of that.
yeah, I was hearing that it was a chase. It started up around Roswell, New Mexico, and I thought that'd be pretty interesting if they were able to get out a distress call, say from Roswell. Then maybe they actually came to Roswell looking for any survivors or whatnot, and got into a chase with some
Wow,
U.S. aircraft and got shot down in Brazil eventually.
that is interesting. No, I have not heard of that. And once, when we end our interview here, I will certainly check that out. What a place to start, Roswell, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. All right, well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time talking to us.
Well, it's been my pleasure, Michael, and I hope you have a happy rest of the day. And I'm going to check out this Brazil thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of videos on it. I guess there were a ton of witnesses, and everybody's got their phones and stuff now. There's a whole bunch of videos and, of the crash site, that people got to, or, that actually some videos of the creatures walking around the site after it had crashed down there. A lot of them are probably fake. You know how that goes. But, I mean, it's still interesting to look at, and they'll let the mind wander, you know.
Wow, that's interesting.
All right. Well, this is Conflict Radio. We'll be right back right after this. Well, welcome back to Conflict Radio. That was Tom Carey. It's pretty interesting to think about what happened at Roswell. Did a crash happen there? Were there alien bodies that were found, discovered? I find it hard to believe that there was an alien discovered wandering around the craft 3 days after the crash. I don't know if I would buy that. I mean, even if I was on a spacecraft and I crashed on an alien planet, I don't think I'd be wandering around my crash site for 3 days. But I guess you never know if the ones that had died maybe were alive for a little while. Maybe he hung around for that reason, just trying to take care of him, or maybe he was waiting for somebody else to come pick him up. Maybe they hit a homing beacon or something. I guess there's no telling. It was definitely interesting to hear about. I encourage everybody to go to roswellinvestigator.com and to check out his books. You can also find his bio and his page at conflictradio.net. Just hit the guest tab on the top of the page and it'll take you to all the guests that we've had. Scroll down until you come across Tom Carey's name, click on it, and it'll go to his page, and there you'll find all of the links to the shows that we do with him, as well as to his website, and give it a look-see. We are definitely living in interesting times. I don't know what happened in Brazil. It would certainly be cool if we can find somebody who maybe has a little bit of research done on it and talk to them and find out, what they think happened. So I will hunt down somebody eventually that can tell us what's going on in Brazil. There's definitely something that happened there. Was it a UFO that crashed? Was there a firefight in the air and there was a battle that went from Roswell or somewhere in the U.S. all the way down to Brazil and then crashed? I guess the crash site is in Mage Forest, if you want to Google it. Mage Forest, Brazil UFO crash. You can Google it. There's tons of videos and tons of articles on it. But apparently, a lot of the videos that were initially put up on the internet have been scrubbed. They were all taken down. So, I guess we'll call it a day. I hope everybody has a good weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday with Michael Cremo. Until then, everybody, be safe. You're listening to Conflict Radio on the Conflict Radio Network. Greetings, and welcome to Conflict Radio. We're going to have a show today, Monday. I guess it's August 3rd, 2020. If I'm reading the computer right. Sometimes it's hard to believe it's August already. What in the world is happening to 2020? It is just flying by. Now, the last episode, I was talking about my cat, and I'm going to go ahead and get into this a little bit because I find it pretty interesting. So, I did an interview. I think it was Thursday morning. I did an interview, and I went down to the vet after the interview to find out what was wrong with my cat, because my cat was just not acting herself. She was very grumpy, very slow, not eating, not drinking anything, not doing very well. Just did not, 3-year-old cat was just not herself. So I did the interview, took the cat down to have her looked at, and found out that she was in complete and total kidney failure, that she probably wasn't going to make it. We're going to have to put this cat down. Absolutely broke everybody's hearts here at the house, including mine. It's a very devastating thing to have to go through. We decided to put her down on Monday, granted, to give us the weekend to kind of wrap our head around what was going on. But on Thursday night, after I did the show, finished the show, put the show up Thursday night, and the cat was not doing well at all on Thursday night. Wasn't even wanting to walk. Not eating, not drinking, not wanting to walk. Just barely alive. This cat was just barely alive. And my wife and I are thinking, we should probably bring her down tomorrow. We should bring her down tomorrow and not wait till Monday. We'll bring her down tomorrow and put her out of her misery. And boy, I'll tell you, my wife pulled up this video on YouTube, and I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. It's called Kidney Inflammation Healing Frequency. Binaural Beats star Kidney Detoxification and Healing number GV232. And it's from the YouTube channel Good Vibes Binaural Beats. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But it's got 1.3 million subscribers. And my wife played this video over and over and over again, very low, while holding the cat in her lap, playing this video of this frequency. And we went to bed. And she was very just, we brought her into the bed with us like we normally do. But, normally she sleeps in the bed with us. But we actually brought her up there. She wanted nothing to do with us. Didn't want us to pet her or anything. She just kind of stood there on the bed looking down. And I thought, oh my goodness, we really thought this cat's not going to make it through the night. And if she does, I'm going to have to take her down to the vet tomorrow. Now, this was Thursday night. So Friday morning I wake up. And lo and behold, the cat is walking around. It's eating. She's drinking. She's not 100%, you could tell, but boy, she's not as bad as she was. So I thought, well, there's no way I'm taking her down to the vet today. Not when she's like this. Maybe we can get the weekend out of her. We had an appointment for Monday anyway. So I thought, well, let's see if we can make it the weekend. And if we can't, I can take her somewhere else. Our vet gave us options to go somewhere else over the weekend. Nope. Every day we woke up, the cat was better and better and better. And I'll tell you, she's running around here now. It is Monday afternoon. We were supposed to go today, and I'm not gonna take her down to put her asleep. I don't even know what her levels are. I called up the vet this morning and I said, I'm not coming down there. We need to schedule. Let's schedule for Monday next week, and I'll bring her in to do some more to run her blood work again and see how her blood works. Her blood work looks, because right now she seems completely healthy. She's totally back to normal, just like she's supposed to be, running around. She's eating, drinking, jumping up and down on things, and I have never seen anything like it. My wife still, every night before we go to bed, she'll play this video, this kidney frequency video for the cat, and it seemed to completely, totally turn her around. So that is some great news. I don't know what to think of that. Was the cat even sick? Maybe the vet was mistaken. I don't know. The vet wasn't mistaken, definitely not, because she was not herself. She would literally hide underneath. Thursday night she was hiding underneath the dresser. Just how cats do. They find a spot to go alone to die, and that's definitely what she was doing. And I thought for sure I was going to wake up Friday morning and to a dead cat. And instead I woke up Friday morning to a better cat, and I woke up Monday morning to almost a completely healthy, back to normal cat, which is awesome. Everybody that sent out good energy and good vibes and everything else, thank you so much. We're reserved as far as, who knows what her health is, what's going on. Did her kidneys just stop working and now they're working again? I mean, I honestly don't have any idea, and I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars to run all kinds of tests to see what's really going on or what really happened. I mean, I'll take her down next week and run her, I guess, blood levels, blood kidney count test stuff to see what her levels are. But, I mean, the vet was actually shocked that we weren't coming down there today. She thought for sure that cat wasn't going to make it the weekend, and we were going to have to bring her down there Monday. But she is completely healthy, eating and drinking and running around like nothing is wrong. And, I believe in miracles. I believe something happened. I was praying. My wife was praying. The kids were praying. We were playing this frequency stuff on YouTube. You guys were praying. Thank you. And I guess we'll see how that goes. But I wanted to give an update because I did have some people commenting and sending me letters and stuff, talking about stuff. And that frequency video, boy, I can't push it enough. If you have a cat with these same issues, try it. Definitely try it. Rewind back to what I said it was and look it up, because I put it away. So moving on. Today we have Tom Dongo on. Now, Tom is widely recognized as one of America's leading experts on the paranormal, UFOs, and extraterrestrials. He is the author of 8 books that focus on the paranormal, including his bestseller, The Revised Edition of Merging Dimensions, which describes the incredibly strange paranormal happenings which took place on the Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, Arizona. He has appeared on over 24 national and international television shows. He has been on 32 international talk radio shows, including Coast to Coast AM live radio with 7 million listeners worldwide on 640 radio stations. He speaks widely and was a featured speaker at the International UFO Congress. I'm really excited to talk to him. I definitely want to, especially from being from Sedona, I definitely want to bring up the frequency healing and just healing in general, because I believe that there's a lot more to healing than mainstream doctors or mainstream medicine is leading us on to. And I believe a lot of you probably think the same, that there's a lot we don't know about healing, or a lot that we do know that's being kept from us. And I believe that that's true, especially when it comes to frequencies. I cannot deny what I saw take place here with my cat. I cannot. She was literally, she had to be carried from room to room. She would not walk. She was dying, and dying fast. and it seems that either prayer or frequency brought her back, and it seems like she's a totally healthy cat now. She really does. So I'm really interested in talking to Tom and getting him on and finding out exactly what's going on with the Bradford Ranch. There's some really interesting stories out of there. So I'll spare you any more boring talk, I guess, from me as a host, and we'll just get right into it with our guest, Tom Dongo, right after this. So welcome back to Conflict Radio. We're with Tom Dongo. Tom's most recent book, Merging Dimensions, The Incredible Saga of the Bradshaw Ranch, is available now. Tom, you there? How are you?
Yes, I'm here. Really happy to be here.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you. Do you want to tell us what this book is about, Merging Dimensions?
Well, it's an updated edition of the original Merging Dimensions, and it's selling very well. Luckily, because my publisher has a ton of them, and Amazon has a ton of them. But it's all of my color photographs, the best of the best that I've got, is now in this book, and they are incredible, and they're all witnessed by other people that were there. So I don't, I'm not just blowing smoke out of my ears. So it's about the Bradshaw Ranch. I spent four and a half years on the Bradshaw Ranch, and so during that time, the incredible things that we experienced and photographed, I've written here. So it's Merging Dimensions is available on Amazon, or if go to my website, which is tomdongo.com, you can get 35% off from the publisher. That's 35% off plus shipping. So that's just go to my website, tomdongo.com, and there's a link. You can click on the link, and you go straight to my publisher, and then you can get the 35% off on Merging Dimensions. And that's been working very well lately.
That sounds really interesting. I did some research on you and Bradshaw Ranch last night, and it's a ranch in Sedona. You've been, I guess, involved with the place for quite a while, right?
Well, when I first moved to Sedona, I previous to that, I really wasn't too interested in UFOs or extraterrestrials and that sort of thing. So I guess it was about I got here in '88, so it's about the same time. I heard about strange goings on the Bradshaw Ranch, and I really wanted to go out there, but I didn't know anybody, and I didn't know the Bradshaws. So one day I got a letter from Linda, and I opened it up, and she said she'd heard about me and my reputation and my book. I believe I had two or three books at the time out then. And so she said, I would like to have you come out and look and experience some of this stuff that's been going on out here. So I was delighted. I had an actual invitation from Linda Bradshaw to come out there. So I think the next day I was on my way out there, and so Linda showed me some of the photographs that she'd been taking, and with her this was back in the 35 millimeter days. It's all we had was 35 millimeter. But she went out one night and took flash pictures, and things showed up on her camera. So I have since learned a camera is about 70% more. Can see more than the human eye can. Something can be right in front of you, you can't see it. But you take a flash picture and it lights it up, and so the camera can see it. I've got a video that proves that scientifically. So anyway, she showed me the pictures, and they were of orbs, ORBS. Everybody knows about orbs now.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the same time, Linda Crystal in Pine Bush, New York, the same thing was happening with her. So Linda Bradshaw on the Bradshaw Ranch and Linda Crystal in Pine Bush, New York, pioneered orb photography. And since then, maybe 4 or 5 months later, it's spread all around the world. People are getting photographs of orbs. And, it kind of mystifies me that it worked that way. And I have no idea why, because orbs have probably been here as long as the Earth has been here. And they're living beings. They have a level of intelligence that may be higher than what we have, but it's a different kind of intelligence. Over the years that I worked with orbs, and some of them are visible, they become visible. They seem to have the level of intelligence about that of a dog or a curious animal. So anyway, that started my venture on the Bradshaw Ranch, and it got just incredible over the next 4.5 years. We had camera crews from everywhere out there. BBC, Universal Studios, all the networks, NBC, Japanese, Swiss. We had, you name it. We had, for the next 4 years, we had camera crews up there, and they were taking pictures with very expensive equipment, $100,000 cameras at night. Cameras that film at night. So it was quite an experience, and we tried to. We were desperate for scientific equipment because we knew it was going to end. They always do. These things always end at some point. Yeah. So we knew that we didn't have too much time. So we asked the camera crews to take their footage back to their bosses and try to get us some serious equipment. All we had was battery-powered spotlights and 35 millimeter cameras, film cameras. Towards the end, after about 3 years, we did have a camcorder that would film at night, and we did use that, but it wasn't very effective because it was all the first one. So anyway, these camera crews would go back to their supervisors, show them what they got, which is incredible, and we told them that we'd give them all rights to whatever they filmed, if they would leave us with some equipment or leave a cameraman there for 2 weeks. And the camera crews got shot down every time. So we ended up using very, very minimal equipment, like the 35 millimeter cameras that we had, but we still we made quite an impact in the world. And the Bradshaw Ranch was world famous for about 8 years during the late 80s and up to about 1996.
And now, did you guys do your own developing, or did you have to go to one of those Kodak booths?
Well, we would take the film in town and just develop the roll, not prints. It gets insanely expensive if you do that.
Yeah.
So we would develop the roll and then look at the roll of film through a fluorescent light and see if there's anything on the film, and that's what we did. And we got all my photographs, our photographs that were. We got to be so famous. We're taken in one night, Linda and mine. All these photographs that are so famous now around the world, that have been copied by every camera crew that came out there. Copied. I say, have at it. I'm not. It's yours. I'm not hoarding it. I don't have any ego about this. Take it and you do whatever you want to do with it, but just don't make us look stupid. That's my only thing. Don't make it. And we were lucky because nobody did. But I've had researcher friends that were butchered by TV crews or whatever in that way. So we made quite an adventure on the Bradshaw Ranch for 4.5 years.
Now, 4.5 years of witnessing all this stuff. Were you ever scared?
Good one. That's a good question. Yeah, there was one night. The stuff Linda and I, in the beginning, we had a pact. We agreed if these things killed us, we were going to push it to the limit to try to find out what these things were. We were going to do everything we could to push it to the limit to find out what was going on there, because it may never happen again in the world. And as far as I'm concerned, Linda Bradshaw and I and her husband Bob were this sort of thing that happened on the Bradshaw Ranch has never happened anywhere in the world before. I've been doing this for 50 years. I know most of the experts. I know what's going on around the world, and none of it was like the Bradshaw Ranch. So we knew we had to do something. So we pushed it to the limit. We if anything we could do, no matter how dangerous it seemed, we were going to do it. And that's what we did for 4.5 years. And incidentally, Linda's husband, Bob, he was an old dyed-in-the-wool Arizona rancher. And Bob had a disc landed Bob was on national TV twice for this. Paranormal Borderline was one. A disc landed in the front yard of the ranch. There was a big open field in front of the ranch by the old apple orchard, and a disc surrounded by about 100 basketball-sized glowing spheres came over the hill, landed on the ranch right in front of Bob. So he was a believer after that, but he would not come out. We try to get him to come out, and we say, Bob, you've got to see what's going on out here. You've got to see this. He wouldn't come out. He'd stay in the house watching TV. He never once would come out. So anyway, shoot, I forgot where I was going with that.
Your fear.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. So we did one night. We actually I do talks to audiences, and I haven't done. Well, I've got a big one coming up. It's pretty soon, but we always get asked that about what was the scariest thing that happened. So this was it by far. The Bradshaws had any dog that wandered onto the ranch, lost dog or whatever, they'd keep it. So they had 7 dogs. And the front of the ranch house was all beach sand. The ocean has come and gone here 7 times. So it was where the Bradshaw Ranch is now. It was at the bottom of the ocean at one time. So there was a lot of beach sand. So the dogs in the summer would dig into the sand, bury themselves in the sand, and cool. In the winter, they bury themselves in the sand to warm up. So at any rate, Linda and I were outside one night. And this was it was after dark, 1 hour after dark. And she and I were both very familiar with the sounds of the desert, bears, javelinas, mountain lions, anything big that would make noises. Because the ranch was close to 4 or 5 canyons. And there were the bears, there were quite a few black bears in those canyons. So we heard these growling sounds, strange. We were trying to figure out whether it was a javelina, wild pig, and they are pigs. The javelina, so we were kind of debating it, was it a mountain lion maybe? And so we kept hearing these, and it was, whatever it was circling the ranch. There was a dry creek that pretty much circled the whole ranch. Because the ranch sat in a little valley. It was about 50 feet lower there than the surrounding country. So this thing was following the old creek bed. We couldn't see it, whatever this thing was, but we could hear it. It was making these growling sounds and whatnot, and so it got about halfway around on the dry creek, and it roared like an African lion. That really scared us. Yeah, so whatever this thing was, we knew it weighed at least 1,000 pounds. And the dogs spontaneously, instantly leaped out of the dirt where they were and took off full speed towards this thing. And we thought we were going to hear dogs ripped to shreds. So about 10 minutes went by and absolutely nothing happened. No sounds whatsoever. Nothing. And then in about 15 minutes, the dogs all came trotting back, just casually coming back. So whatever this creature was, the dogs were familiar with it. They knew it. So they came back. They came back and settled back into their spots in the sand, and that was it. So the creature by now was walking around the south end of the ranch. It was about 150 yards away, and there was a horse corral at the south end of the ranch and one at the north end of the ranch, and there were about 3 horses in the south corral and 4 in the north. And I said this many times to horse people. I said, "Have you ever heard a horse scream like a woman being murdered?" And they say, "No." Well, all these horses are screaming. And, I mean, it's a blood-curdling thing to hear. 5 or 6 horses screaming, and a horse can really scream. So the closer this thing got, and the horses in the south end of the corral of the ranch were trying to kick their way out of the corrals. There were 2 by 10 boards, about 8 feet high, and the horses were screaming and trying to kick their way out of kick the boards out off the pole. So the creature must have walked right by the south corral, and then the horses quieted down, and that was it. So just before that, Linda and I, we each had 3.5 million candle power spotlights. They were battery. They were rechargeable. Mine was dead, but Linda's was still pretty well charged. So we walked. Linda actually went in the house and got a pistol. First time we ever had any kind of guns. Well, no, not actually. The first time I've got a story I can tell later, but it's pretty interesting. I had my M1 carbine with me. So anyway, we went down there as far as we could. We thought this creature was in the trees. There was a thick grove of ash trees, and we thought it was in those trees. It was very close to the horse corral, but it wasn't. It was on the hill, looking down at us. And if we'd have thought to shine our spotlight up on the hill, we might have seen its eyes glowing. But the thing was that the creature was, we figure, about 10 or 11 feet tall. And the next day we went up there, and we staked I'm 6'1", and my stride is 27 inches. This creature was 72 inches between. Its stride was 72 inches. So that's easily a creature of 10 or 11 feet. And the odd thing that I still haven't really been able to figure out is it left round tracks. Because I filmed some of them. I took pictures of some of them that actually had the veins. You can see the veins sticking out in the tracks. The only thing I can think, years later, I thought it was a Bigfoot type creature standing on tiptoes. And as it walked, the sand at the top of the hill was very soft, like beach sand. So we staked out the tracks. And unfortunately, I don't have that photograph anymore. Quite a few photographs were lost over the years. And it's pretty impressive. We had stakes with little flags on them. And each one was 72 inches from the track in the back. So you can see the stride of this thing. So that was the end of that. We never ran into that creature again, but Linda had, it was called Big Girl. It was a white Bigfoot. And I had trouble with all the stuff that happened on the Bradshaw Ranch. I had trouble with that one because I'm going, yeah, okay, a white Bigfoot. So the incredible stuff that happened. I had a hard time with that. I really did for a while. And then one day there was an old Western movie set. John Wayne, Elvis Presley, Randolph Scott, Maureen O'Hara, all the major stars were there in the 50s and 60s. The old West town, the movie set, pretty well fallen down, but it was pretty much intact. So Linda and I went down there way out. There's no way to...
I'm losing you on your microphone there.
Really?
Yeah, I got you back now.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, sounds good now. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Maybe I'll lower it just a little bit here. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, Linda had this white Bigfoot, and she would see it on occasion, and so we were in the old western town, and Big Feet I've been studying Big Feet for over 30 years, well, all types, Yeti, in the Mongolia and the Himalayas, they're everywhere. They're all over the world, in different types. So we were the big feet in this country have a habit of taking a limb or a log and hitting a tree 3 times, bam, 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 real hard. And so we were going out of the town, going up the hill back toward the ranch, and something picked up a 2x4 and slammed against the side of a building. And after that, I was a believer. It was whatever it was very strong. And then shortly after that, so I was a believer. And Linda used to leave food out for Big Girl, Bigfoot. And she put it up high and way up high so that any animals like a raccoon couldn't get to it. But a tall creature, 10 feet tall or whatever, could reach it easily. So it would be gone in the morning, and there'd be a pattern of sticks on the ground.
Yeah.
That was the Bigfoot's way of showing gratitude, evidently. So, and in the book, it laid in the sand. There's a picture of it in the book, and it laid in the sand and did like a snow angel kind of a thing, moving its hands back and forth, and arms back and forth, and it's about 10 and a half, 11 feet tall. Now this was Big Girl, the one that Linda was familiar with, and Bob had been a rancher his whole life, and he said there was no animal on a ranch, cow, horse, or anything could leave an imprint like that laying down. You can see the head, the arms, the legs, the feet. It was about 10 and a half, consistently 10 and a half feet. I've got a good picture of that in Merging Dimensions. So anyway, I've told this story 100 times. I always get a kick out of it. The ranch hands thought we were bona fide lunatics, real fruitcake, new age weirdos. So, and I had some trouble with some of these guys because they were so negative about the stuff that Linda and I were dealing with. So one day they went hunting on the ranch, and Linda said they left the ranch house, and they'd been gone about 10 minutes. And Linda said there was this blood-curdling scream. Because Big Feet hate guns. So evidently the white Bigfoot had seen it. So about 10 minutes later, these guys, all 3 guys come back. She could see them in the distance doing a 100-yard dash back to the ranch. And they burst into the living room, put their guns in the corner, and ran out the door yelling, "We believe, we believe, we believe." So that's a good one.
So what do you think's going on there? I guess with the book title Merging Dimensions, you're kind of giving it away. Do you think that there's a portal there where different things are coming in and out from other dimensions?
Yeah, there's a famous portal there. It's about 30 feet south of the ranch house and about 20 feet in the air, and it's about 20 feet across. And we could have, Linda was good at sensing what came through that portal. And there were times we felt like we were in Times Square in New York because of all the beings that was coming through that portal. We came to the conclusion they could see us, but we couldn't see them. And it didn't bother us. So we would walk around at night just burning up film, taking flash pictures and seeing what showed up on the camera. And a lot of that stuff is in my book. So we, like I say, Linda was way more sensitive to this stuff than I was. So we would, one thing we learned is that these beings that were there on the ranch can manipulate time. They can speed up time and they can slow down time. And the reason we know that was because on the old 35 millimeter flash cameras, there was a red light that would light up when the camera was powered up to take a flash picture. So we would put our thumbs over we found out that it fooled them, whoever they were. They were watching that red light on the cameras. So we put a thumb over it and then turn quick, up, down, whatever direction, and take a flash picture. So we caught some of them off guard, and we did get some headshots of these creatures, and nothing real plain. But Linda got one night. Linda and I were standing together, and it's the blue-haired man photo. It's very famous. It's been all over the world. There was a man standing in front of us. Neither one of us saw him. But Linda took a picture, and he has blue hair, eyes so small. A Japanese film crew pointed that out one time. And about 100 people have seen it before that, and the Japanese said, "Look at his eye. The eyes is half out the size of ours, and had an ear that was completely different than us humans." It's some sort of I've had medical doctors look at that photograph, and they say this is some kind of an organ in front of its ear. It looked like a big wart, but the holes, there were no holes in the ear, just creases. So yeah, so the blue-haired man photo, it's very famous. It's been everywhere, and that Linda took that. And I have to say that Linda never hoaxed anything. She was a totally honest person. Never, in no way, neither one of us ever hoaxed anything. It's all authentic as we took it. And we gave all those photographs away. We didn't charge $10,000 for the blue man photo. We just said, take them. Whatever we find, we give it away. We'd get a fee sometimes for the interview, but we never hoarded the photographs or anything else we got in the film. We got some pretty good film. So
now,
that's yeah. Go ahead.
Why do you think that the government never showed up and would investigate your claims?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. We don't really know because there were so many. Outside of the Bradshaw Ranch, there are probably. The government bought the Bradshaw Ranch. I'll get to that. Remind me if I forget. Yeah. But the U.S. government owns the Bradshaw Ranch now. But in the area, there are. I don't like to call them bases, but there are underground installations, and several of them are government, a U.S. government. Because I know of one where, excuse me. I lost it. Yeah, I know of one where I know exactly where it is, and it's super dangerous. I had a friend that was a.
You're talking about an underground military base?
Yes. This is I don't know if it's military, but it's a U.S. installation. And he discovered it because he's a counterterrorism expert. I don't know how he did, but he showed me the evidence, and I was just gobsmacked because it's so obvious that thing is there. And I'll talk about this. I'll pinpoint where it is to top level researchers, but I will never tell the public where it is. Never ever. But so anyway, he was. He had his life threatened twice. They said, "You come back here again, and we will kill you." So I know exactly where it is. I know exactly where it is, and it's an underground. That one's U.S. But now I talked to a guy that was an ex-CIA agent. He wasn't an agent, but he was a CIA operative. And he told me about a U.S. base here that I have never heard of before, not a clue. But he said, "Yeah, I've been there." He told me where it is, but I'm not going to say because I don't know exactly where it is, but I got a general idea, and it's in a place where there's hardly any people that go there, plus a few four-wheel drive. But it's an enormous base, and it's about 15 miles from Sedona, air miles from Sedona. Maybe not even that much, maybe 10 air miles. It's huge. And I said, I told him, I said, I have never, in all the years I've been doing this, I'm the world expert on Sedona by far. I never heard anything about this. And he said, I flew a jet plane out of that base. It's an underground base. And he said, I flew a jet all the way to China from that base. There's an opening, and there's a runway down there you can fly jets out of. So anyway, there's some more about this that I probably shouldn't talk about. It pretty much pinpoints the area. I could find it. There's something there that I could look for.
That's all right. You could tell us where it is.
Yeah, no, it'd be dangerous. It would be dangerous. It might be dangerous for me. I don't know.
I have no doubt that there's underground bases out there that we have no idea about.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of them, at least two of them are extraterrestrial. And there's one right in front of me is Mingus Mountain, and Jerome, the town of Jerome, is right there. And over the mountain on the other side, for the last 10 years, almost all the UFO activity here has been to the west of Jerome. So there's an Indian base, so many UFOs. I'm talking ships come from over the hill and from the same area. So there's a base over there somewhere, and they can camouflage these entrances so well that you can't see them. I think they use holograms. I'm not sure, but anyway, my friend, the counterterrorism expert, wanted to rent a Jeep. You want to go find that? I said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't. Because people disappear that way. Because they have here in Sedona. People have gone into the canyon and never come out. So anyway, so there's two extraterrestrial bases here. And I've had CIA agents, police, active police, an Air Force intelligence friend of mine who just got out of the Air Force, researched this stuff, and it's no question it's there. And there's another base underneath the town of Clarkdale. It's near the town of Clarkdale. This one's extraterrestrial. But the interesting thing is, two off-duty police were UFO buffs. They actually got in there, and they said they found a manhole cover that was off. So they went down in and they started walking around. It was caves, tunnels. And they said they were swarmed by U.S. military with machine guns, M16s, whatever. They said, you guys turn around, take a hike, forget what you saw. And so, but I know for sure because where they were was extraterrestrial. So the U.S. military is either working with these extraterrestrials, or they know of them. So I don't know for sure.
That sounds really interesting. Now, did anybody try to go through the portal from the Bradshaw Ranch over to the other side?
Yep. There was Ancient Aliens. Was about a year ago. I was going to do a project with Ancient Aliens. It was on this thing, but it got so complicated they gave up. They threw up the hands on the Bradshaw Ranch. And Linda and I were taking photographs one night. And again, all the dogs. There had been a humanoid creature watching us for probably an hour or hours, right by where the old apple orchard was. It's all dried up now. But so suddenly Linda and I think there was a third woman. Boy, I'm starting to forget. But at any rate, there was myself and Linda, and the dogs again. All of them jumped up simultaneously and charged off towards the apple orchard. And there was a humanoid. And like I say, Ancient Aliens is going to do a reenactment of this. And the humanoid was brown. Everything was brown. Skin, clothes, shoes, hands. Not dark brown, but a tan brown. and it started. It didn't run, but it walked very fast, so that before the dogs could catch up with it. But we had the spotlights right on it. This creature, and it would not turn its head to look to us. It wouldn't show us its face. And so the dogs finally caught up with it. Unfortunately, something distracted us with the spotlights, and we didn't see exactly where this creature disappeared. But there was a yucca bush that was the being was whatever it was 5'7", because last we saw it, it was right by a yucca bush. We measured the yucca plant, and it was about 6 feet high. And so the dogs just milled around, sniffing the ground, and then just came back and went and laid down again. So the next day, Linda and I, we'd stick our arms to the spot, and we'd say, "Can you see my arm?" And we didn't want to walk right through it because we were afraid we might not come back. But really nothing happened. We didn't have any. If it did disappear in a portal, I'm pretty sure it did. We couldn't find the portal, or maybe it closed down. I don't know. But there were dog tracks everywhere, but there was no footprints. This thing did not touch the ground. This humanoid did not touch the ground because there were no humanoid prints there whatsoever, and it is a powder soft. This ground was powder soft. So that was our experience with that portal. And the big one, you really couldn't get to. It's too high off the ground. It's about 20 feet. But I was with the History Channel. We flew a helicopter around the ranch, and there was a pinyon pine that was 50 feet tall. Pinyon pines grow maybe 20 feet maximum high. And this one grew 50 feet high, and it was right by the portal. Something had split that pinyon pine, like it was cut with an axe, straight down the middle. One side fell one way, and the other side fell the other way. And so we flew around the ranch in a helicopter with the History Channel a bunch of times filming that. I hadn't seen that before. So,
well, that would certainly be one of my top scary moments there. Did I lose you? I can't hear you.
No, I'm still here. Yeah.
All right. So now you're a remote viewer. Have you done much remote viewing there at the ranch?
No, I'm kind of dismayed, bored with remote viewing. I am an expert remote viewer. I'm one of the best. And how can I say that? Because I know government remote viewers. I've worked with them. I have friends that were on the original remote viewing government team. And I can sit and we can talk straight across about remote viewing. And we have some really interesting conversations about that. In fact, I told one of my friends, I said, if we were in the Bible Belt talking about what we're talking about in a restaurant, they overheard us, we'd be tired. We'd be lucky we could get out of this town alive. We'd be tired and fed and run out so fast. He had been a colonel in the Air Force, so he said he laughed and he said, "Yeah, because the stuff we talk about, even a highly knowledgeable person would be stunned at what he and I talk about with using remote viewing." So anyway, remote viewing, I don't use it much anymore because there's nobody I can do it with. I had a woman friend. She left about 10 years ago, and she was a government trained remote viewer. She worked at Los Alamos, and we had a lot of fun. We travel around the world, around the universe together, and look at things, sightseeing. But the unfortunate thing is most people have no idea what remote viewing is. If anybody is listening wants to go on my Facebook page, Tom Dongo, you go back about 5 posts, and I did a complete story about how you can remote view. It's what I know and how I use it, and it's if they stick to that, they will learn remote viewing. But people these days are just so diverted by television, football games, hamburgers, going to grandma's house, only out of 100, a handful of people would even try it. And some people were disappointed because they couldn't learn remote viewing in 2 days. I mean, that's the way it is these days. Everything's instant. It takes a while. It's not hard. It's actually, if somebody works at it hard, and really intentionally tries, they can start to be a remote viewer almost instantly. And what remote viewing is projecting your subconscious to a place. Time and distance has no meaning. And I've done it many, 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 many times and proved that it worked. And I worked with a psychologist for 6 months. He was in Durango, Colorado, and I was in Sedona. And we did experiments. He wanted to see how good I was. I was about 80% accurate. He would put stuff out for me in his living room. He had a beautiful house in Durango up on one of the mesas. And things that were in the sun, I could see easily. But if they were in the shadows, I had a hard time seeing. So we did this. I found that his animals, he had a dog, and his birds. He had an aviary on the outside of the house, and they could see me. They would fly right up to me and look at me. And the dog would come over, look at me, and sniff and bark. And I looked at him and I said, "You little bastard, you can see me, can't you?" And he'd go, So he'd follow me around. I'd look for Tom outside. He had a big garden out there, so I'd look, and the dog would follow me. So the animals could see me. I must have looked like a ghost to them. So anyway, remote viewing is an incredible thing. But I'm getting bored with it because nobody seems to be interested. And what I do with it is incredible. I can talk to extraterrestrials. I can prove it. I've done it with government remote viewers, and it's not hard to talk to extraterrestrials. They think, "Oh, Tom, what about
all telepathy, isn't it?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's partly telepathy, but people say, "Well, Tom, what about the bad extraterrestrials?" They're only bad because we don't recognize them. We don't, we're oblivious to most extraterrestrials. I'm even talking about the ones that are killing us, and they are. But if they know you can see them, they respect that. I know this stuff sounds crazy, but I've proved it. I was jump in there anytime. If you want to ask anybody extraterrestrial, remote viewing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you remote view through the portal?
People ask me that a lot, and I don't do remote viewing full time, but yes, I could, but I never have. I've never tried.
Okay.
But I would see things. I had an offer about a year ago. This was through the U.S. government. They had and just today I watched on the internet. It blew me away. They were talking about what I was told a year ago. The government has a machine. They can go ahead in the future and they can go back in the past and take photographs. But this particular machine needed a woman she had to be the catalyst. So I was invited to be a part of this, and I said, "Well, sure, lay it on me. I'm ready." But they never got back to me. But you can go into the future. Well, a remote viewer can do it anyway. You can go into the future.
Are you talking? I don't mean to interrupt you, but are you talking about Project Looking Glass?
I think so. What is that?
All right. Project Looking Glass is supposedly being used by the United States government to look through the future and see possibilities on different things that they do. Like they're able to say it's a like a quantum computer that they got. And what they do is they'll type in a scenario and then they can look and see what that scenario ends up for the future.
Yeah, I've read about Looking Glass, but it's probably the same thing I was just talking about. It's in the same department.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I have friends in the government. Most of them are retired intelligence officers. Something just popped into my mind, so I'll mention this. About 10 years ago, I was asked to come to a hotel room in Sedona, and there was some military people wanted to hear me talk. They wanted me to talk to them. I was paid pretty good, so I said, sure. No. He said, bring your photographs. I have one of the best photographic albums in the world of strange things. And so anyway, they were Army counterintelligence agents, about 15. And I'm the guy that organized it. I think he was a colonel. So I'm thinking, why does some low end schmuck like me? Why would they? So anyway, I did my talk, and they were dumbfounded. I mean, I'm talking about active military counterintelligence agents. This is 10 maybe even longer ago. But they looked at they all crowded around some of my photographs, and they didn't tell me why they were so fascinated by my stuff, but they were. And there was one particular picture. I wish I couldn't see which one they were dumbfounded by this thing, that I had a photograph of it, whatever. And I tried to see which one it was, and I didn't. But it must have been they must have been hearing about it, but I had a photograph of it.
So they recognized it in your photo.
Yeah, exactly. So, and unfortunately, I don't know which one it is. I've had some of my photographs stolen out of my album here in where I live, and some of them they didn't take them all. I was thinking, I was saying, if somebody's going to steal my photographs, why don't they just take the whole damn album? But there were just some photographs. I had a drawing. Extraterrestrials have said that you will never photograph the inside of one of our crafts, but I got anonymously. I got sent a packet of drawings. The artist was very, very good, of a crashed UFO in New Mexico. The whole crew was dead, and so somebody sketched the inside of that ship, and those photographs were stolen. Those drawings were stolen from me because
Are you talking about Roswell?
No. This is completely different. There were 7. Roswell wasn't the only one. There were seven other crashes all the way up to Wickenburg, Arizona, at the time of Roswell. So I got that from Colonel Wendell Stevens. Wendell Stevens is famous. But he said it wasn't only Roswell. There were 7 others, all in a curving arc all the way up into Arizona, about the same time as Roswell. So, and I know about most of it. So anyway, I remote viewing. So I was Joe McMonigal, who is probably, I heard that Joe's still in the remote viewer. He's still there. I was maybe 15 years ago. I was at a UFO conference, and I was standing right next to Joe McMonigal, and he was talking about some of the things I do. I do some amazing psychic things. Amazing. Like I told you, I can see into a human body like an X-ray machine. I've done it on hundreds of people. And I do psychic things is very, very, sometimes I think am I going crazy? I've gone through that so many times, but then something will validate it, like this. I was going out into space and going on to alien spacecraft and talking to the extraterrestrials. And how they talk is not like us. It's like telepathy, and they project pictures. Pictures worth 1,000 words, and that's what extraterrestrials do, and they're good at it. Sometimes I can't understand the picture, so I tell them, do it again. I can't get your picture. I don't understand it. So they sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll just blow it off. But so anyway, I used to go. I thought I've got to be going crazy for sure now, because I would go out into space and go on to alien spacecraft. There's lots of them. There's hundreds, maybe thousands that are in orbit around the Earth. And so I would go up to it's easy. I can do it anytime. I've taught audiences how to do it, which is really quite a trip. So anyway, you can go up to an alien spacecraft. If it feels threatening, if it doesn't feel good, get away from it fast, because they don't mess around. So, but if you go close to an alien craft out there in space and it feels good, just keep going closer and closer and closer. And then if it still feels good, go right inside, and they'll look at you. They'll think, oh, another damn human. So I'd go around the ship, look at everything, look at them, and a couple of times I've asked telepathically, pictures, would you stand still and let me probe your mind? And these beings, some of these beings are millions of years ahead of us, so I couldn't. I've lost this ability to probe minds. I was in a bad car accident 18 years ago, and I lost a lot of my abilities, and this was one of them. I can't probe minds anymore. I used to be able to do it in 5 seconds. So anyway, I would have the extraterrestrial would stand still for me, and they kind of, they humorously would let me do it. So I got a bit of an idea about what extraterrestrials are like. So come to find out, Joe McMoneagle was doing the same damn things when he was in the government. But the thing, Joe, when he went on an alien spacecraft, they warned him don't come on this ship, and so he didn't leave. So they said, we've warned you 3 times to leave this ship, and then they put him in a box. They wouldn't let him go. Some kind of a glass box. He couldn't get out of it. He said he was terrified. And I can imagine. I find it really funny that he stuck around after they wanted him to leave. I learned early on, if they don't want you around, leave, get away, because they don't mess around. They mean business. They know how to play the game. So anyway,
they can zap you.
Well, they use their power. Extraterrestrials have mind power that we don't have. They don't do stuff with their hands. They do it with their brains. They can create with their brains. I mean, like we do with our hands.
Yeah, I was hearing somewhere that aliens can manipulate atoms to form the matter that they want.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, yeah, that's probably perfectly right. But I've worked with ghosts. I've talked to ghosts. I do crazy stuff, and I've studied Bigfoot, and I studied dogmen. I spent a whole year studying dogmen, and I've remote viewed them, and they're very, very scary creatures. And there's lots of them in this country. They're mostly in the Midwest around the Mississippi River, and they're very dangerous. And dogmen are werewolves. That's what they are. The worst ones are in Texas, dogmen.
All right. I wanted to ask you, we only got about 5 minutes left in this segment. I wanted to ask you what the inside of their craft looks like. Can you describe it to us?
Yeah, good question. Well, yeah, it's very smooth. There's no sharp edges, and they're very, very. The light is very, very soft, always. But there are no sharp edges. It's all, if you bump into something, it's a round, smooth, and the texture is very like cloth, soft cloth. Like, I mean, it's not like, it doesn't feel like metal. Maybe plastic, a plexiglass, or something. I mean. Plastic. So it's we have no idea what what they construct. It's not because I don't know. I mean, I've tried, and I've had, I've talked about this with friends, and they don't know either. I mean, we're before we go on the break, we have powers. Us humans have powers. We have no idea how powerful we are, but the problem is we don't use it.
Well, we're kind of in a safe mode, I believe, our brains right now.
Yeah. Well, the fear, it's fear. People are afraid to develop. We were just talking about that healing ability, that sort of thing. That's to heal somebody instantly. We can do that if we know how to do it.
Yeah, this stuff's pretty interesting. When we come back after the break, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you may think of the possibility of our evolution of consciousness and how that actually plays a part in what you just said, what we can do with our brains. And a lot of people think that we're being suppressed subconsciously through the food that they're giving us, the programming that they're giving us, through all of this stuff to try to keep us from waking up. But
absolutely,
I want to talk about that in just a few minutes. We're with Tom, everybody. We're with Tom Dongo, everybody. And his newest book, Merging Dimensions, is available now on Amazon, or you can get it for 35% off at tomdongo.com. And we'll be right back with Conflict Radio right after this. Welcome back to Conflict Radio. We're with Tom Dongo. Tom, how you doing? How's your break?
Great.
You get a refill on your drink and everything?
Yeah, I'm all set.
All right. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I've been, and I'll go ahead and tell you, I've been doing this show for a little while now, and it seems like every show I do, every mystery I delve into, it all comes down to our consciousness and how it's being suppressed, probably purposely. And I'll go ahead and run you off some examples. A lot of discoveries of the old giants and that sort of thing that were discovered back in even in the 1800s was suppressed, and this goes back to the Rothschilds were suppressing a lot of the ancient information that we found. How this might all be going into a giant deep state conspiracy to keep our consciousness. Our consciousness, if I could say it right, on I guess, my friend Jared Murphy, he's on the show a lot. He says, like, we're in safe mode. Our brains are in safe mode. We're not experiencing the full aspect of our brains. We're forced to live in this consciousness that isn't right. What do you think of that theory?
Yeah, that's the question of the day. I'll tell you right now. I've been mulling that over lately myself. There's something seriously wrong here. I don't know. There's something that's controlling us, and has been for thousands of a long time. And I've tried to close in on it, remote viewing, and I can get close to it, but we're being manipulated. We're being orchestrated. Something is messing with us big time. Keep us bickering and fighting with each other, so we don't progress towards the proper goal that we should be progressing towards. When Charles Fort, F-O-R-T, in 1921, I've gone back to this 1,000 times. In 1921, Charles Fort, all he had, the only thing he could use for research material was magazine articles and newspaper files. And the last thing that Charles Fort said when he quit doing this stuff was, "We are somebody's herd of cattle. We are somebody's herd of cattle." And I agree with him totally, but I can't figure it out. Why we're being suppressed and manipulated and herded, in the way we are. And I think, I'm talking about some of the abilities I have, the natural abilities. I went to the Berkeley Psychic Institute, Santa Cruz, California, And I found out how powerful my psychic abilities are. So I can use all these things, that I do, the remote viewing and all that, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I've talked with some of the brainiest people on this planet about some of these things, and nobody, everybody is confused. Nobody, and if somebody does have an opinion, it's usually BS. I mean, it's just something that they pulled out of the air. It's just their ego that that wanted them to say that. But something is controlling us, and I'm trying to, I'm oh shoot, turn this off.
That's all right.
Yeah. Gosh, forgot about the cell phone.
That's all right. Take your time.
Gotta shut it off. It won't shut off. Shut it off. Yeah. So something. I'm pushing 76 years old. I ain't no spring chicken no more. But something is manipulating us, and I'm damned if I'm gonna find out who it is and what it is. At this point, I gotta shut this phone off. So it really bothers me. It pisses me off because all this stuff that's going on right now, somebody is manipulating us to their end, whatever it is. And I don't think it's extraterrestrials. I really don't. Because people say, "Oh, it's the reptilians." Well, I'm not so sure. I think there's something else that we don't understand. We can't put our fingers on. So it's like the Rand. I think it was the Rand Corporation about 30 years ago. I mean, this is how I don't want to say people are stupid, but yeah, I'm going to say people are stupid. They're unaware of what's going on around us because I think there's been so much going on around that keeps people oblivious, and it's going to be our doom now at this point, unless, like I say, with remote viewing, I wish I could train hundreds of remote viewers because they could go out there and they could find out with the remote viewing ability what it is, and as teams they could do something about it, and they'd be protected. They wouldn't be because they're able to do that. They'd be protected. So I don't know what it is, but the Rand Corporation. So the corporation years ago, they got together, all these brilliant people, think tank, and they said, well, if we go this way, then the herd of sheep will go that way. If we do this, the herd of sheep will go that way, and that's exactly what's happening right now. I mean, what's happening right now is the Communist Manifesto, and it's working. They're doing it's exactly everything that's in the Communist Manifesto to turn this into a socialist country is working. So, what makes this work? Where's the power? Where's the mind power? And that's what I've been mulling this over for weeks now.
Well, that's Project Mockingbird, obviously.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things. But anyway, yeah. I'm trying to remember Mockingbird. My brain hard drive is.
I'll go ahead and just say it because there might be some listeners who don't know it. Project Mockingbird is actually a program created by the CIA, and that goes back to the 30s and 40s, where they were using the news and television programming to basically start programming the American people to think and do things as if they wanted to, how they wanted us to think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what you see. What bothers me enormously is people don't look around. They react. They react like a herd of sheep instead of saying, "Oh, wait a minute, what's going on here?" Look around and try to figure it out. And go, aha! Oh, they're trying to make us all into communists. So people don't do that. They're and this new thing now that I saw on the internet the other day. They're able to manipulate around 20 million votes Facebook and several other several other these social medias just by sending out some announcements of politicians. They're able to manipulate around 20 million votes. So anyway, I don't want to get into that, but see, that's, people don't go. Yeah, I don't want to get into politics. That's politics and religion.
Well,
you know that joke. If you're lost, hopelessly lost in the woods, just start talking politics, and in 10 minutes somebody will be there to argue with you.
Yeah, I know that's probably the truth today. I mean, you gotta be careful what you even say, otherwise, if you say what the mainstream media or the mainstream doesn't want you to say, they'll just completely eliminate your right to say it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like what they're doing to doctors right now. They coming out about these things that have been completely stifled. These panels of doctors. So at any rate. So we're in a mess right now. It's
Well, let me ask you about that since we're talking about it. I've had a few guests on where we talk about, somebody has mentioned QAnon. I don't know if you have any idea who that is. And then you have basically the deep state is in a war with the cabal, or the cabal is the deep state. They're in a war with the alliance. Blah blah blah. I think David Wilcox talks about this. There's a lot of interesting things going on all around. I mean, you got to kind of wonder what is really happening. I mean, when it comes to the coronavirus, it seems like it's just seems like it's political in nature. It's not real. And I'm not saying it's not real, because it's obviously real. But
right.
it just seems like so much of what's going on isn't real. What do you think about all that?
Well, it's orchestrated. We're being manipulated. It's intentional. So who you can't, the Democrats right now are doing some pretty insane things that are very destructive. Don't bring it. I'll let my city burn because people want that's a good way for people to vent their anger. I mean, that's crazy. So the federal troops don't come in. So what's the reasoning behind that? I mean, and it's as old as I am, I know how thinking was when I was a kid. It's completely different now. If you went back 50 years and talked about some of the things that are going on right now, they wouldn't believe you. They'd say, you're crazy. There's no possible way that can happen in this country, but it is. So somebody is manipulating us, but who? Is it some kind of a demonic thing? I study Santeria, voodoo, and I kind of try to put all this stuff together because we're being herded like sheep right now, and I don't. The thing of it is, everybody's confused. I talk to some really smart people, and they don't have any idea that everybody's confused, and that's why that's divide and conquer. That's what whoever is doing this, and it's not George Soros. It's something more powerful. It's kind of like it's a team effort to and the way we're going. I think I saw on the internet the other day, 90% of scientists now say we're not going to make it. This planet's not going to make it because of the way things are progressing. The overpopulation and whatnot. So we're in deep trouble right now. So. Okay, getting back to remote viewing, I get really frustrated with this stuff. 4 or 5 times in the past, I've just said to hell with it. I quit. I don't, it's just little old me. But if remote, and I tried to explain it on Facebook, and I have a lot of people that really appreciate what I said. But with remote viewing, if there were enough remote viewers, and everybody can do it, we could solve most of the problems on this planet. So there's that thing a couple of weeks ago, what was it, 10 days, they were trying to get extraterrestrials to meditate to come and help us. Well, they didn't. So why? Okay, so I'll get back to this. I'm able to talk to extraterrestrials. I've done it a lot.
Okay.
Now they're avoiding us. Well, here's an example. A friend of mine was at the 20 years ago. He was the top UFO researcher in the world. Bill, shoot, I can't remember his name. But anyway, a friend of his had a face-to-face encounter with human extraterrestrials. I've interviewed about 12 people that have spent time with human extraterrestrials. There are about maybe 14 different species, races of human extraterrestrials.
Now, what do you mean? What do you mean by human extraterrestrial?
Well, they're human, and but they're from outer space.
You mean like they're just like you and I?
Yeah, exactly. There's hundreds of thousands of them here, and and I've been several times close to some of them, so I have a pretty good idea of how they look and how they react. I'll get to one story in a minute, but they're and they know they're from other planets. They're not walk-ins. Somebody say, "Oh, they were walk-ins." I said, "No, that does happen, but they're not. These are extraterrestrials out in the stars." I've been dealing with this for 40 years, and there are some of them couldn't care less what we do to ourselves. They're totally indifferent. None of them are our enemies, the humans. It's the humanoids. There are about 150 races of human and humanoid extraterrestrials. That may be a low number, and they're watching us all the time. So, I'm trying to remember his name. Anyway, his friend was met with some human extraterrestrials, and he said, "Why don't you people come in and stop us before we kill ourselves off or destroy the planet?" And he was told, he says, "We can't, because whatever you humans do, we would be held responsible for interacting in your system. We would be, if you whatever you did, we'd be held responsible for it, for interjecting ourselves into your system. So we can't in a way." So I thought, that's pretty interesting. The Brookings Institute about 25 years ago, the government told them everything they know, and I know pretty much what the U.S. government knows about extraterrestrials. I'm awfully close. And so anyway, the U.S. government does not want us to know about what they know about extraterrestrials. And they have said, the military has said, we will never tell the American people what we know about extraterrestrials. And I know what they know. And they're right. They shouldn't. So anyway, about 25 years ago, the Brookings Institute...
Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they?
Well, people couldn't handle it. Some extraterrestrial races are pretty brutal. So here's what happened with the Brookings Institute. So the government told them, this is about 25 years ago, and the Brookings Institute is a very prestigious institution. So the government told them what they knew then, and I pretty much know what they knew then. Go out and with that in mind, ask the public, what if they knew that extraterrestrials were here and they were going to interact with us? How would they react? And Brookings came back and said, don't tell them anything. Two things will happen immediately. There'll be a revolution amongst the religions, and the world economy will collapse. So the government didn't, and they were intending to 25 years ago. So I have friends in military, they're all retired, but they were in military intelligence. Many of them had cosmic top secret clearances. I still know a few that do. That's the highest you can go, is cosmic top secret. So well, I'm not going to go there. But at any rate, they said that the intelligence services, Air Force, Navy, whatever, they're compartmentalized, so nobody knows, nobody has the whole picture, but they know. I had this one guy, Frank, tell me, we know for certain that the U.S. government has been dealing with face-to-face with extraterrestrials since probably 1936, and absolutely from about 1943. They've been working with human extraterrestrials. So, so I have a friend. He was a high-ranking military officer. Now, this was 40 years ago. He was working, and this guy would never stretch a story or tell to fabricate something like this. Never, ever, ever. He said, I'm guessing 40 years ago, because he would have been about a lieutenant then. But they were working with praying mantis extraterrestrials. But he said they were half human and half praying mantis, so they weren't too bad. They were ugly and kind of weird, but they were half human. And I think it's David Jacobs now has been doing an enormous amount of research on hybrids, human extraterrestrial human hybrids. And he says,
I'm sorry, you said that's David who?
I believe it's David Jacobs.
Okay. Sorry.
David Jacobs. Yeah. He was just on a big interview show about a week ago. He's done an enormous work with human extraterrestrial hybrids. There's human extraterrestrial hybrids and extraterrestrial human hybrids. In the beginning, this stuff really gets crazy, but I've researched it all. I know people that were dealing with this way back then. There were extraterrestrials were hybridizing humans. So now, the U.S. government is hybridizing extraterrestrials. Last I heard through Emery Smith, there's 21. The U.S. government has been able to hybridize 21 extraterrestrial races. They're half human and half extraterrestrial. So I'm thinking, where the hell did they get the bodies? So they've got to be shooting down extraterrestrial craft. That's the only way, because the U.S. has devices now that can shoot down any alien craft, and they're doing it. What, when, and why the extraterrestrials haven't retaliated? Maybe they have. I know. I worked with the Russians 20 years ago, and the UFOs were shooting the Russian MiGs down right and left. Why? Because the MiGs were trying to shoot down a UFO. They wanted to collect a few so they could back engineer them.
Yeah, I've been hearing that there was a craft shot down in Brazil recently.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that, but no, there have been many. There have been about maybe 6 U.S. fighters shot down by UFOs. And for the most part, it was their own fault because they shot at the UFOs. But I worked with. I had. I don't know where it went, but I had a tape with a Soviet colonel in uniform saying that we've ordered all of our fighters, fighter jets, to stay away from UFOs as far as they can get, because we've had about 35 of our fighters shot down by UFOs because they were trying to shoot a UFO down so they could back engineer them. And I knew Marina Popovich long ago now. This tells you how old I am. But Marina Popovich was a colonel in the Soviet Air Force, and she had 3 world speed records in MiG jet fighters. And she had gun camera footage of a fighter closing in on a drone. And his missiles were armed, and a UFO dropped right in front of the jet, the MiG fighter, and immediately the base was screaming, "Break off! Break off! Break off! Return to base!" Because the missiles were going to fire on the UFO, and it was very convincing footage. I can still see it in my mind, and this was 20 years ago now.
Yeah, you really got to wonder what's really going on. The only thing that I can really think of is that they're trying to suppress us to enslave us. I mean, what else could it be?
Yep, I agree. I totally agree.
You know,
That's why
they
we
get
have.
us obsessed. They get us obsessed with matter, with collecting
Yes,
matter. And it's
yes.
in the actual realm of what our consciousness is supposed to be. Matter doesn't mean anything. It's
No,
worthless.
right. Yes, yeah, perfectly said. No, I agree 110%. We need to, and instead of ride around in a new Corvette, we need to explore the mind. We need to perfect what our minds are, and I know what they are, and I know what we can do. Humans have powers we can't even begin to realize. Why? Because I've seen them. I've seen them work. But nobody, somebody is suppressing this. And okay, going back to that, we humans we didn't evolve. We were introduced about 50,000 years ago by extraterrestrials on this planet. I'm trying to think of the word, but at any rate, 50 to 80,000 years ago, the people we are were installed on this planet. Probably the theory is slaves mining gold and diamonds in Africa. That's where it started. And I wouldn't disagree with that. But we have my friend Lloyd Pye. Lloyd wrote a book, and Lloyd was a good friend of mine. He's been dead a couple of years now, but Lloyd wrote this book. He proves humans have defects that animals don't. We have things wrong with us that animals don't have these things because their DNA is perfect, but ours isn't. Lloyd was able to prove that extraterrestrials spliced their DNA in with ours about 50 to 80,000 years ago, and now this is what fascinates me. And I wish I was younger. I'm damned old now. I won't have time to get into this, but I think we are becoming extraterrestrials, human extraterrestrial. We're becoming we are becoming them.
We're evolving.
Yes, right. Yeah, we're evolving into human extraterrestrials, and some of them are very interested in it. I think that's what they're looking at.
Can I tell you a story?
Sure.
Episode 4 of Conflict Radio, we interviewed David Thibodeau, and I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of Waco, but he was one of the survivors of the siege at Waco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of David Koresh.
Yeah.
And I was always a little bit interested in David Koresh. Obviously, he followed and he studied the 7 seals and the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was interested in is what his actual interpretation of the 7 seals was. And I was talking, David got me in touch with another survivor named Livingstone Fagan. He lives in Britain. He is still studying the 7 seals with in the way that David taught them. I'm sure you've heard of David Koresh.
Sure.
So I was interested in talking to him because I wanted to get him on the show to, interview him about, what actually David Koresh was teaching in his 7 seals of teaching. And according to David Koresh, the 5th seal was opened the day they raided Waco. And basically what that means is that Waco burning down lit a fuse. And what happens is that there's going to be a major event, and just before they open the 6th seal, from talking and you guys on Conflict Radio, we're going to have him on very soon, and we're going to be talking about this, but I'm kind of giving you a preview because I've talked to him before doing the show. But he says that what David Koresh was teaching is that the opening of the 6th seal is actually the evolution of our consciousness to experience things in a more fully capable way, just like our ancient ancestors did thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago before we were suppressed. Now, Tom, you're one of the most knowledgeable people that I know that I could talk to about paranormal things, just anything paranormal. And I want to get your thought on the fact that what do you think about religion and how that all falls into this, and how it could be possible that, as far as David Koresh and Waco is concerned, that the sixth seal is actually an evolution of our consciousness to be more of the human that we're supposed to be. Did you follow me?
Yeah, I did. The thing of it is, I bypass religion, all that stuff, because it just clutters up your mind. So I go straight to the core, right? I've always done that. Take the bull by the horns, that sort of thing. Yeah, I suspect, using the abilities that I have, in 50 years of talking to some of the smartest people on this planet, and all kinds of things, that we are on the verge. Something does not want us to emerge into the new human, what we can really be. And and I'll be damned. If I could do everything I can to help this along, because we're being suppressed. I mean, because the abilities that I have an inkling of what can be done, through remote viewing, particularly because I am a master remote viewer. So I see some of these other things. I see the possibilities, could a group, be trained or whatever, that could be, like the 100th monkey thing, right? That starts the fire. That somebody has a realization and it spreads around the world like a flash. And suddenly everybody's emancipated. I think that's absolutely what's going on right now. But something doesn't want us to know. I'm trying to figure it out, and I have literally talked to some of the most intelligent people on this planet. And they're most of them, unfortunately, were linear-minded. They were focused in one way or another. But I'm not. My brain takes in everything, so I can take everything I know and form it into a picture, a process. So I don't. The seventh seal. Yeah. Well, I think it's basically right. But there's so many things, it's probably only one of 100 things that are a possibility. And is it real, or is it somebody's imagination? Did somebody? There's a lot of, there are a lot of innocent charlatans around. I mean, they mean well, but the stuff they're putting out is bullshit. I mean, it really is. It's totally. And I don't want to get into this too much, because I'll piss a few people off, but. There's especially the love and light crowd. I'm really coming down hard on the love and light crowd. I've had enough of all of them, because they're leading people in, hearts, love, angels. I mean, love's wonderful. I mean, it's a crucial thing. But they're leading. They're. I take the good and the bad and formulate. Take it all. Are you still there?
Yeah. I think I lost you for a second.
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. I wish I could put it into a picture of this, but we got to do it. We're running out of time. Seriously, running out of time. We've got to.
You're exactly right. You're talking about this woke crowd, I guess, that's out there today, that think that if we just give everybody a place to live and give everybody food, and that'll solve everybody's problems. That doesn't solve everybody's problems. That opens up. I mean, that brings in more slavery. I mean, who are they to decide what I need? Maybe I don't need I don't need you to pay for my apartment. I don't need you to to pay for my food. I can grow my own food and live in the woods if I want. Why force me into an apartment or a house or something? I think that they're being fooled.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they're leading too many people astray. They're the things we need to focus on. We're not. We're what I do. I tell some of these people. I take the very good and the very bad, and I put it. I choose a line through it. A line of thought through it by knowing what's very good and what's very bad. But these people, it's only angels and love and perfection and and everything's perfect. Well, everything isn't perfect. So I'm having a lot of trouble with that kind of thinking these days. That it's really doing more harm than it is good.
Yeah, like you must love and respect everybody, or we're gonna burn down your city.
Yeah. Yep.
Wait a minute, what? So, doing some remote viewing, have you looked into the future and could you give us maybe a warning or of an idea of what you've seen? Is it good? Is it bad?
Oh, I haven't really. I can't tell. It's like somebody said to me, it's constantly changing. So I read it was a government remote viewer said, we're not doing too good with that either because it's constantly changing. And that's true. I mean, if it changes, shoot, yeah, this is very important. Lynn Buchanan, he's one of the top government remote viewers. And he was saying, I'm glad I thought of this. This is critically important. He said, if we even remote view into the future, we change the future. When I read that, I'm going, well, damn, I never thought of that. That's true. He said, if we remote view into the future, we change it. So we have to be very, very, very careful. And Lynn Buchanan is always been one of the top remote viewers in the government. So I'm thought, well, dang, maybe that's why I can't penetrate it. I can't. I just see such a cacophony of stuff happening out there that I can't formulate any kind of a good or bad, an outcome in the future. I haven't been able to see anything. So this is where you sit with, and I have done this, and you sit with a room full of extremely good remote viewers or psychics. I've done this with psychics. Like I said, I have an amazing psychic abilities, and you all focus on it, and then come to a consensus about what you're seeing in the future, and it's probably fairly accurate, whatever they see. So I don't know. What I think that from what I can just surmise, things are going to get really rough around the time of the election. I mean, I'm talking rough, and the dust is going to settle probably somewhere around next February. Things are going to settle down, but it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be. From what I see, by looking into the near future, around the time of the election, it's going to be really rough in this country.
Yeah, it seems like we're being set for a civil war in this country. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think we're days away from civil war. All it's going to take is somebody in Austin to start shooting, and then the military is going to have to start shooting back, and a bunch of people are going to get killed, and that's going to set off that's going to light the fuse. And where it goes from there, Trump must have a plan. He's got the brains, he's got the thinkers. That if we do this, they're going to do that, and if it does happen, then what are we going to do? So hopefully they've got a plan, because civil war is awfully close right now in this country, awfully close.
Well, if it is a Trump versus a deep state world, from what I'm hearing on the Trump side of things, is that the game's already over for the deep state. Like on a chessboard, the deep state has 6 moves left till checkmate, and the only thing that's going to keep the deep state from losing is a mistake by Trump. So
yeah, or an assassination. No, I agree with that 100%. They're on the run for the first time in history. So if Trump,
and I mean, you can just see the panic out there. I mean,
yes,
it's unbelievable what's going on. I mean, even there's people talking about the Democrats or the deep state. I don't mean to say Democrats, because there's deep state on both sides of the aisle. There's good Democrats and there's good Republicans, I believe, but there's deep
sure,
state on both sides, and that's what we're
sure.
really fighting. And I mean, I'm hearing that we're working with China to release this virus on purpose.
Yeah, I'm sure this coronavirus is intentional. It's been released for a plan. They knew what was going to happen, and they've made the moves progressively as this thing goes. Because people are finally realizing what suckers they were in this whole thing. People are real critical thinkers. But God bless critical thinkers. If we didn't have critical thinkers, it would be over by now. So people are finally putting two and two together and figuring out what's going on, and hopefully we can stop it. They can stop it. They can correct it and make it a great outcome for everybody, which can happen. I mean, it can be a beautiful future, but the moves have got to be made right now.
Yeah, I hope regardless of what is going on, I mean, everything that we're dealing with in life on both sides is I believe just speculation. So
Yep.
Whatever is really going on, I certainly hope that the good in humanity can overcome, and hopefully, according to David Koresh, this has been a fuse burning for quite a while, and something major is going to happen. But something major needs to happen for our consciousness to evolve.
Yep.
And when that happens, we'll start using more of our brain than just the small percentage that we're using now, and we'll be able to understand and see a lot more clearly things that are really out there, and things that are really going on, especially the stuff that you witnessed over at Bradshaw Ranch. I mean, how many people do you talk to about stuff that happened down there that have just said you were absolutely loony or crazy?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. Well, luckily, I've been able to prove everything in my books. Whenever I talk about something, I can prove it, and I will tell people, if you can prove me wrong, that's the end of it. I'm not going to bicker and squabble with you for 6 months over it, like some friends I know do. They'll bicker and squabble themselves to death. I saw something the other day that was on the internet. It supposedly came from the Bible, and they, another thing that kind of, this is all intended for us to evolve. Waking up, wake up. It's time to wake up. The Bible, and it was some, I don't remember where, but because I read so much stuff during the day, I'm reading stuff all the time, so I don't. But it hit the nose exactly with what's going on right now. I mean, right, precisely. But it didn't say what was going to happen. It didn't say we were all going to end up. But if this is true, if thousands of years ago, like Nostradamus could see this, how in hell did they do it? I mean, they've got to be able to travel. They can see in time forward, or this is scary, or it's happened before. So we're at another critical juncture. And what are we going to do this time?
Yeah. Do we evolve or do we destroy each other?
Yep. Exactly.
Now, do you think that there are humans on the earth now that already are of full consciousness?
Well, good question. Probably, but they probably be living in a hut in some poverty-stricken country, or in Tibet or somewhere, and they just don't. They've have awakened. They're fully conscious. But I don't know. I've never run into any. Because I've got a way of interrogating people. I've interviewed 400 or 500 people easy over the last 40 years or so. And I've got a really good knack for interrogating people when I really focus. So, I've run into some, unfortunately, many people that claim, if these people that claim to know everything, actually, I have come to the conclusion that they know nothing. And there are plenty of people that claim that, oh yes, they have answers to everything. So I go, okay, good, fine. It's see you around. But in the ones that are really with go slow, that say very intelligent things slowly, critical thinkers, and some of the greatest ones like Plato, back in the past. Plato is incredible. The things that he said. How did he know? How did Plato know these things that he knew? 3,000 years ago or whatever. So it baffles the heck out of me. I just don't. I don't. There's some great mysteries. Maybe maybe some extraterrestrial land sometime and tell us what's illuminate us. I don't know, but something's got to change pretty soon. It's going to be. We're going to be toast.
Well, that's kind of sad to think about.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to get let's get off this subject for a little bit because we're starting to tread water in places we probably shouldn't. I do want to. We don't. I guess we've got about 20 minutes left, and I want to talk to you a little bit about healing and frequency healing. You're right there in Sedona, where a lot of frequency healing is said to take place. What could you tell us about that?
Oh, yeah. I live in Cottonwood now, but I was in Sedona 32 years. I've seen it all. There are some people that they claim to be healers, and they are because other people believe that this person is a healer, so they're healed, right? Okay, so and a lot of them use different methods, and so I don't know. I've been around healers in Sedona, and there have been great healers and great psychics in Sedona, but I can't categorize any of it. I really can't. When I was first in Sedona, I did vortex tours the first 2 years I lived here. So there are hundreds of vortexes. There aren't just the four popular ones, that all the tourists go to. So I've physical healings in all the years I was doing tours with hundreds and hundreds of people. I only saw maybe 2 physical healings, but I saw many, many mental healings. They had emotional problems or psychotic or whatever, neurotic. I saw many, many of those. There were people had been in a vortex area or a high energy area and were healed. But I would stay in touch with a lot of these people. A couple of weeks later, I'd call them up and I'd say, "How are you doing?" And they say, I'm fine. I feel wonderful. I'm healed. I haven't felt this good in years and years. But so there are so many healers. Unfortunately, in this area, there's a lot of charlatans. They're just trying to. They either know they're a charlatan, or they're just trying to make a buck, make some money. But I've never.
Do you think that it's the people that live there that like the healers that live in Sedona that are actually doing the healing, or is it because of the area of the earth that they're in?
Yeah, good question. Well, probably the combination of their expectation when they come here. A lot of people come here to be healed, and so somebody says, "Well, I'll heal you," and they often are. So I've given up long ago. I've seen the most bizarre healing techniques. For instance, biomagnetics, right? Now this guy, it started in Mancos, Colorado, but it was everywhere. Biomagnetics, The guy started this so he could have sex with 16-year-old girls. That's the whole deal. He made it up. He said that one day he was taken up on a ship by extraterrestrials and he was shown this technique. Well, he didn't. But it worked. I mean, he would, because I was there. I took the course. I had a girlfriend at the time that wanted to go. We went to Mancos, Colorado, and you just touch your fingers, your two fingers, and touch spots around your body, which is, I was thinking, I mean, what the heck does that do? But it worked. There was some because people believed it worked. I mean, I saw some phenomenal healings, and it was just BS that the guy had made it all up so he could hang out with teenage girls, And so anyway, it came out that we're kind of like John of God in a way, but John of God was a different deal. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. The whole thing is just power of the mind, I think, a lot of times, so I don't know. I've tried to figure it out for, forever, and I can't.
So you don't, so basically what I'm asking is like, do you feel like Sedona is a special place? Like, I guess a lot of ley lines come together there. Do you believe that there's a science, a realness to that?
Yeah, I sure do. Ley lines are very, very real and very they're important. I mean, they do affect people, humans. So I don't think. Well, yeah, there was a book out about ley lines about 20 years ago. I can't remember. I don't think it's even available anymore. But a guy did write a book about ley lines in Sedona. So yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of people come to Sedona and get healed. It probably has a lot to do with the energy. Somebody told me once that I could be way off on this. The body vibrates perfectly at 4.8 hertz. And they've studied that the energy areas around Sedona, and they're 4.8 hertz. So if somebody goes into a vortex area, they're 2.6 hertz, and they go in, because I've seen this happen. They go into a vortex, and their body frequency has changed to 4.8. So they're healed. I mean, it's I've seen it happen. So it's I may be wrong about 4.8 hertz, but but so yeah, no, I've seen phenomenal healings with things that.
I'm just going to go ahead and interrupt you here for a second.
Yeah,
basically what you're saying is that whatever frequency our body reacts to best, whatever the frequency our bodies are supposed to be at, is the same frequency that's there at Sedona. So when people come to Sedona, their frequencies align with the frequency that's there, and that's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, well, if you go back, if you get out of the city, Sedona's getting awfully crowded now. I mean, it's like everywhere else. If you get out of the city and go back into the canyons where the energy is still pure, it's fantastic energy. I had a medical doctor from San Diego that he used to pay me quite a bit of money to take him to any energy area in any, because I've been in all the canyons. I don't do it anymore. I was too damn old. But he wanted me to take him to power spots. So I would take him to some. And the Sanawa Indians were here. They left 900 years ago. Nobody knows where they went. Nobody knows. But their ruins are all through the canyons, like the Anasazi and Chaco Canyon and all that stuff. But he would. I took him to one spot in Long Canyon, way in the back of Long Canyon, up on the benches, to an Indian ruin. And he said, "I've been all over this planet, and I've never felt anything like this. This energy is so incredible." And he would heal with stones. He would get stones from around the world and use them to heal people. A medical doctor. And I told him, I said, what's the AMA think about that? And he says, well, they as long as it's not unethical, it's okay. So that's how he made his living. And he was very, very successful. Made tons of money, healed with rocks. So,
Yeah, I believe that there's a lot to do. A lot with healing and energy as far as different rocks are concerned. I guess everything puts off its own frequency. It most certainly does.
Well, yeah. Well, like I say, I worked with Sharon Forrest. She was certainly one of the all-time best healers ever on this planet. And I worked with her for about 2 years. I would do I would do my psychic stuff on, say, like Saturday. She'd do her healing stuff on Sunday, and she had some pretty strange methods of healing people, but they worked. She healed people of, she would get 20 people together with cancer. They all had cancer. I mean, I was there. I would scan them and whatever, give my opinion, and she'd heal them. So, but her methods were pretty unorthodox, some of them, but they worked. And she's Sharon Forrest was easily one of the all-time best healers ever lived on this planet. And she would use frequencies. So whether she generated them herself or she drew them from spirit, who knows? But if it works, like you say, if it works, it works. Don't mess with it.
Yeah, about 10 minutes left to go. Can you give us one more story? Could you tell us your absolute favorite story about the ranch?
Well, yeah. Yeah. Oh boy, there's so many things. Well, I'll tell you what. The last thing that happened this happened about a year and a half ago. A guy called me one day, and he said, there were 3 researchers. These guys had the best equipment you could buy, money can buy. And they said that they wanted to talk to me because of something that happened to them on the Bradshaw Ranch the night before. So I said, sure. So next day I got together with them. I interviewed these guys for 2 hours, and I told this to Linda Moulton Howe. Linda was kind of bored with it. I guess she hears a lot of interesting stuff. So they were. It started about 9:30 at night. They were spread out around the ranch, and they saw some headlights on the top of the hill. Bradshaw Hill is above the ranch, and so they saw lights up there, and a lot of times the tourists will come up there and then turn around and go back. But this one stayed. Then it started coming down the hill. There's a road off to the left going into the Bradshaw Ranch, but the car, or whatever this thing was, went down through the trees. I mean, there's no road there, but it was going down through trees like it was on a road, right? Zigzagging back and forth. So I got down to the bottom of the hill, and it went straight across where there was no road, and it was driving like it was driving on a paved road. And it got to the University of Northern Arizona has leased the Bradshaw Ranch for they're researching native plants, trees, bushes, whatever.
Oh, that's what they say.
Yeah, right. But the government owns it through the Forest Service. The U.S. government owns the Bradshaw Ranch. So anyway, so this thing comes across, it's on pavement, goes right through a chicken wire fence, 8-foot chicken wire fence, across a cultivated field like it's on pavement, goes through the picket. And I've seen this. I mean, this is crazy stuff, but I've seen it. UFOs can mimic cars perfect, and I've seen it so many times. So anyway, this car it goes through the chicken wire fence again and stops right by the ranch house, which now is in ruins. The windows are all smashed in. The weeds are waist high, and they're gonna bulldoze the ranch houses and build a dormitory there for the University of Northern Arizona. They haven't done it yet, but they're gonna. So anyway, these 3 researchers were spread around to the west of the ranch, and so they said that just before that car, and the car was headlights, tail lights, dome lights, the whole deal. So they saw a man in white pants walk through the woods and go towards the back of the ranch house. So this car pulls in, and a girl gets out with white pants, and she walks real fast to the back of the ranch house. And I said, well, did she have time to take a pee? They said, no, she didn't. So that wasn't the reason. So anyway, so she must have been there to pick something up. And anyway, she went back to the car, and the car went back across the rough cultivated field through both fences again without knocking them down, drove right through them, went across the flats, up through the trees, and disappeared. So that was one of the most impressive things that I know of. That's happened at the Bradshaw Ranch. This just happened, like a year and a half ago.
All right, man. You want to tell everybody where to find you?
Oh yeah, I didn't mention this yet. I'm going to be doing a talk at the Overlook Event Center in Amico, Texas, in September 25th to the 27th. I'm probably going to be teaching remote viewing, but I'm going to be talking about the Bradshaw Ranch. And again, it's on tomdongo.com, and the whole story the whole thing is there about the Overlook Event Center and the prices and all that. But it's on tomdongo.com.
Yeah, that's the 2020 Transformational Shift Conference, right?
Yeah.
Is that still going to happen?
Yeah, I asked him last week. It's going. We're going to do it. So looks like it.
That's pretty awesome. And your website, people can find you?
It was tomdongo.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on and spending some time with us. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, we had fun.
Yeah. Hopefully you got into some things that maybe some other people won't, but I try to keep it a little bit more, I guess, real. I really think a lot of this has to do with it all comes down to how we're looking at consciousness. I really do. I think we got it all wrong.
I agree totally. We have to change. We're at a point now we have to change. There's no ifs, ands about, or buts about it. We've got to change as a civilization now. We have to, and I'm doing the best I can in my old age. But but I'm on Facebook a lot. I have a great number of readers. So you can find me on Facebook a lot. All of my good photographs are on Facebook. If you scroll down through, the best of the best and the best of my stories are on Facebook, my Facebook timeline.
All right, so everybody go to Facebook and look up Tom Dongo and shoot a friend request or follow at least, and we'll be right back with Conflict Radio right after this.
Yeah, no friends. I'm almost up to 5,000, so no friends.
All right, well they can follow you. And
all right, yeah.
All right, Tom, we'll be right back.
Yeah. All right.
Welcome back to Conflict Radio. That was Tom Dongo. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Remember, you can always find us at www.conflictradio.net. You can find us on Spreaker and also all of the major pod catchers. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Podcast Republic, generic Android app, iTunes, AntennaPod, Spotify, Castbox, Listen Notes. There's a few, iHeartRadio. So there's a bunch of different ways you can find us, especially on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe or give us a review. If you're listening to this on Apple iTunes or iHeartRadio, please give us a review. It always helps us out. Remember that you can find us at conflictradio.net. You can always go there. We've been working on a really cool site, so be sure to find us there. And until next time, I encourage you to batten down the hatches and be safe.